welcome to the last 2022 edition of Podcast 572. I'm your host, Kyle. I'm joined with as always, my friends Dan and Matt. We're going to kick it off today. We're going to talk about what we've been playing. One of our emails today is actually a recommendation of something two of us have been playing, so we will get to that as well. But I'm going to go ahead and start and kick it off with God of War Ragnarok. I finished it. I think when it was all said and done, I put 40 hours into it, and that's doing 75% of the side stuff. Okay. I didn't finish all the side stuff. So, I will tell you what I did. Like, I did my review for my YouTube channel. I gave it a B-, which is probably lower than I think some people gave it. And that is spicy review. And that is because, unfortunately, I think this game suffers with the narrative issues that a lot of Sony sequels have lately, starting with Last of Us Part 2, but Horizon has the same issue where it gets into like wacky territory. This game, it's not that it's wacky. It's, as I said last week, there's a chunk in the middle of this game that just drags and gets to like almost boring level of like, what am I doing? Like fetch quests, like galore. And there's a good chunk of it you play as the son doing fetch quests. And then it switches to Kratos and another character. And I don't want to spoil who that character is because it's kind of a spoiler. They're doing fetch quests. So, putting that middle part aside, the end of the game is fantastic. And it does set it up for obviously another one, but in a more interesting direction than I thought would have happened. I can't talk about that direction because it's a major spoiler.
Yeah, don't do that.
But this game is very much, if the first game was about starting to prepare your son to grow up, this one is basically about finishing his preparation to grow up and kind of become a warrior.
Sure.
Like you. Okay. So, and there's a lot of like Kratos in this game, even more so in the first one, has to learn more to be human than he has been in the obviously past games. Not talking about the original trilogy, but where he's, very much not human.
Well,
so, but it goes in a very fantastic direction towards the end. Once they finally get to the point where you and your son reconnect after being apart for like 6 to 8 hours of this game. Once they kind of reconnect, the story starts to pick up. You actually get through the events of Ragnarok. I will say this isn't really like a huge spoiler, but it's more of a spoiler for Last of Us Part 2, but Last of Us Part 2, remember the end of that, you haven't played the end of that?
No, I didn't play it.
Okay. Maybe I can't say that then. So I forgot you haven't played that game.
No, yeah, I haven't gotten
Okay. The downfall and a problem I have with The Last of Us Part 2, and if you want to know what that is, you can go watch my review on my YouTube channel. They get really close to making that mistake here, but they do not do it.
Okay.
So at the last second, they go, no, we're actually not going in that direction. And I think that makes it better. But it sets up a very interesting potential third sequel. So, which they're going to make another one. Wasn't this the fastest selling God of War game in history? I think it sold like 5 million copies.
Oh yeah, it was bananas.
So, is it worth playing? Absolutely. Is it in my, like, when I do my YouTube stuff, it'll be in my top 10. It's just not going to be. I mean, when I started, I was like, and especially the first couple hours, I'm like, it's easily going to be the best game I play this year. And I'm surprised coming out on the other end of it that it's lower on my list than I would have had it. But that doesn't necessarily mean it's not a bad game. It's just, I think there are some huge narrative issues with it. And a lot of that, I think, also stems from the guy that did the original one in the story. He's not he didn't do the story for this. He basically gave somebody else 3 ideas.
Sure.
Because I've read the article about
this
it
is
now.
where I was thinking it was going to go.
Happen.
Yeah.
And then they wrote the story around that. And I think that it's kind of like if you look at the recent Star Wars trilogy of like one person should have overseen all 3 of those.
Or like Mass Effect,
or Mass Effect,
one clearly built into 2, and then they just kind of abandoned it going into 3.
Exactly. Yeah. So like it's like they should have, especially if this ends up being a trilogy, it should have one cohesive vision. And it's clear it's not going to.
Well, it's tough to do because of the time frame for these things, Like,
it's harder for a video game because
multiple
years.
Yeah, hundreds of people touching it. Like, it's.
So, is God of War worth playing? Absolutely. And like I said, especially to you, Dan, you haven't played the first one. Go play the first one.
Oh no, I know.
If I had to pick, I will tell you the first one I enjoyed more than the second one, but
Next time I'm craving like an action game, I think I'll
if you're in the Arkham Asylum mood.
Yeah.
Is what I would tell you. But that's my thoughts on God of War Ragnarok. I absolutely think, people should play it. I don't think you should skip it, but I will say, if you don't have a PS5, wait until you get a PS5. It is definitely a showpiece for that system. So, next game on my list is one I know both of you've never heard of. It is called Krampus Kills.
Oh, Jesus.
I had a credit on the Xbox store, and my girlfriend loves that Krampus movie from 2015. And I looked at it. I looked at the trailer for it. I think the game was like, it's either 10 or 15 bucks. I don't remember, but I had a credit. And I was like, I'll buy it and I'll let her, play it, 'cause she likes that. It's one of those, like, it's a shooter. It's trying to be Doom, but it's too slow to be a Doom game.
Mm-hmm.
It starts out like you're the kid in the house, and oh no, shit went wrong. Here's Krampus.
Right.
You got to get out of the house, and then it turns into almost like Doom, where you're going to take Krampus on. So you get through the sewers of this town. Now I'm in the cemetery at the part I'm at. Krampus is chasing you, but there are other enemies. They do have like the gingerbread men. They have these little, like, I think they're supposed to be elves, but they look like gremlins that chase you and stuff. With that being said, like, it's not great by any stretch, but it's not terrible. It's a very middle of the road thing. So, and I bought it for her, when she played it for 5 minutes and then handed me the controller, like, I'll watch you play, which never happens.
Right.
She never wants to sit and watch me play anything. So I ended up playing a chunk of it, but it's, especially if you like that movie, it definitely shares some similarities to that movie, because we just rewatched it the other night, because we watch it every year. That's our Christmas movie tradition. But
kind of messed up, dude.
Highly recommend watch it if you've never seen that movie, especially if you like Gremlins. It's like a modern Gremlins. But it's okay. I would say it's a game where, like, I don't think it'll ever come to Game Pass or anything like that. So maybe wait till it's super cheap.
Just one of those kind of games. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So, I briefly tried out, because I've had a ton of people tell me to try it, Signalis, which is a retro PS1 era survival horror game. It has kind of the top down view, like isometric, but it's tank controls. I've only played like the opening intro of it, so I need to go back to it. But I will say, like, the brief I played of it, it has a very good atmosphere, and it has the same kind of like save system that you would expect from that type of game. So, it's futuristic. It's almost like a cyberpunk. It's almost like a cyberpunk world, but you're trapped in like there's a spaceship that you're trapped in, and it crash lands on like this ice planet. So you're trying to figure out like what's going on this ice planet. So, pretty cool. I will get back to it. I have also started the Callisto Protocol. I played 2 hours of it, 2 of the supposed 10 hours, because I hear it's really short. I really like what I've played thus far, but I have one gripe with the game. They did actually patch it, so I got to play this pre-patch and post-patch. Pre-patch, the game's like healing system was really, really slow, like way, way, way too slow. Like you get injectors. Like, I'll also say this is Dead Space. Like, it's just Dead Space. But when you inject yourself, it takes way too long. They patched that. It's super fast now, so I can't really complain about that anymore. The melee combat, and I don't know if you will get this. I don't know if you're gonna get this example, but I know Dan will, Matt. But the combat is like, do you remember Fight Night Round 3?
Yeah,
it came out for Xbox. Yeah. You use the 2 sticks and you kind of duck back and inside. Yeah, that's exactly how the melee combat works in this game.
I don't.
So like if an enemy comes at you left, you duck right. If an enemy comes at you right, you duck left, or you duck back. It's weird.
It's weird for an action game. Like for a boxing game, it works, but
it doesn't work like that when you use guns or anything like that. But
even still, that's a weird way to go to melee.
Melee is a big part of this game. So, it's spooky. It's weird. Like, also the main character you play as is, I believe he did the voice capture, or he did the voice. Obviously, does the voice. I think he did the mocap too. That Josh Duhamel guy. You know who that is, right? The actor.
Yeah.
Okay, that's the main character of this game. That kind of amazed me. I didn't know that going in.
Yeah, I didn't.
And he's a good actor. So, and he does a good job. But like the story setup for this game is like you're a freighter. You drop some freight off on this prison planet. These other people try to hijack you when you're leaving. You end up crashing back on the planet along with those people that try to hijack you. And in the confusion, everybody gets arrested and put in this prison. So you get through like a pretty nasty, like how you get put in prison. They inject you with some weird chip thing so you can't leave or you'll blow up, kind of a thing. And then shit goes crazy in the building. And there's some sort of I'd almost liken it to like The Thing. There's some sort of element that's like churning people into creatures like The Thing. So that's basically the setup of the game. Like I said, I'm about 2 hours into it, but it has a really good atmosphere. You just have to get by that melee. And I think that's where a lot of people scored it lower because they couldn't get past that.
Sure.
So
that makes sense.
It's weird. Like, and when I started playing, I'm like, oh, this just doesn't seem like you would do this in 2022. So, but I don't know. It works for me. And then the last thing that I played before we'll talk about the big thing, and I'll only talk about it briefly, but Vampire Survivors first DLC came out on Thursday.
Ooh.
It's $1.79. It adds one huge new map, 8 new characters that you have to unlock, and 12 new weapons. And the new weapons are cool. I have already unlocked the first character on that map. I played the map. Map's really cool. It's like it's set kind of like in a Chinese temple, like ancient Chinese temple, and then it's snowy.
Yeah.
So it's pretty cool. But there's all sorts of weird enemies. So really, really cool. I know you've played that too, Matt, so you can talk about it in a minute as well. But really good DLC. Again, it's $1.79.
I mean, for that price point, the
you
game
can't.
itself was
That's so crazy, like how just like cheap the game is and cheap the DLC. Like
my Xbox friends list, I think last I looked, it's like 20 people on my friends list are playing that game.
I've had multiple people
Like,
tell me about it out of the blue, like without unprompted.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So the big game of the week, and both Matt and I have played it. We actually got an email on it, so I'm going to read it real quick. Let me dig it up here. We got the game recommendation on it. This comes from Charlie from Fort Worth, Texas. He says, "Hey guys, love the podcast. I have a game recommendation this week for y'all, and it's High on Life. I've been playing a lot of it, and I found it to be surprisingly fun and funny at the same time. I'm not a huge fan of Rick and Morty and that style of humor, but I feel it does fit the game. It's also great seeing a single-player, story-focused game that's exclusive to the Xbox and on Game Pass. Have any of you tried it, and what do you all think?" So, I'll be honest. I'll start this by saying, I'll be honest, I'm not a huge fan of Rick and Morty humor. I've maybe watched like an episode of the show. It's not for me. And it's more of like, I think the like community around that is just so over the top.
You know, I don't really care for it either. I think I watched like the first two and was just like, I can't.
It's just a very abrasive community.
But I like stuff in that like genre. Like, you know, I've been watching South Park forever, and
exactly. So
Simpsons and even Family Guy pushes that. So you would think I'd be into it, especially since it's like sci-fi type stuff, but there was something about it. Yeah.
I wasn't going to play this game at all. My girlfriend saw the trailers and stuff at E3 time or whenever. I was like, she wants to play it. She likes Rick and Morty. She's seen some of the episodes. I don't know when she's watching it. She's not watching it with me, but she likes it. She wants to play the game. I'm like, all right. And I had it sitting on my system the other day, and and that's what I thought to myself, much like the email. I was like, when's the last time an exclusive Xbox game has come out that's unique and different? Mm-hmm. It's been a while. I should probably just see what this game's about, like, and kind of put my notions about Rick and Morty aside and just see. So I will say this game, like, the humor can wear thin on me a bit just because the guns do talk a bit too much. But the intro is the intro of this game. I've seen it twice now because I made her start it so I could see the intro again. Is the best intro I've seen in a game this year. It is. You start when the game starts, and maybe this will sell you on the game, Dan. You are playing a retro Doom-like game. It's a made-up character. I think his name's like Buck Hyperspace or something like that. And when you start, the guy that's giving you the tutorial is your divorce lawyer.
Oh, okay.
So when you start, he's just like, "Hey, Buck, we got to get in here. Yeah, your ex-wife's taking over the planet, and she's got like all these alien boyfriends that are gonna come destroy you. We got to do it, Buck. You got to get in there, Buck." And like he just keeps talking to you as you go through. You got to duck. You got to duck, Buck. This is the second game. You know how to duck, right? Like, and he'll keep talking to you. There's one part. He's like, "You got to double jump here." So you got to double jump, and you just fail. He goes, "Oh shit, they didn't put the double jump in the game. You're gonna have to crouch now, Buck." Like, and he just keeps talking to you. They get to the point where it goes out of control. And I was like, it's a great intro, and it kind of pans back, and then you realize like the story of the game is you're a teenage kid, you have a teenage sister. It's kind of fucked up. Like the first thing in the game when you get out there is your teenage sister offers you cocaine. And that's how you look into like the little like mirror thing she's using to divide the cocaine. That's how you pick what your character looks like, but you don't actually do the cocaine.
Sure.
You're just like, no thanks, or whatever. And she talks about having a party, and then all of a sudden there's this big boom, you go outside and these aliens show up and you cannot understand what they're saying. So they kind of like talk to this one alien, they end up killing him, he dies, they disappear, and you run up and you get the gun, and then the gun starts talking, and that's basically how the game starts. And the talking gun explains to you what's going to happen, and then the aliens start invading, and you end up transporting your house to the alien planet. And they basically, at this point, if I remember correctly, I think Earth is just fucked.
Sure.
Like, I think they even say it, like, Earth's fucked, you got to get out of here.
Yeah.
So you get to like the alien planet, and then you're basically a bounty hunter. You're doing different bounties for like different, there's an ex-bounty hunter, you talk to him, you get his suit, and then you have to go do different bounties. So you're hunting down different aliens. But the whole point of it is that eventually you're going to take down this, like, I think they're called like the G3 clan or something, but they're the people that were taking over Earth. And the whole point of them taking over Earth is because they take humans and they smoke them as drugs.
Oh,
that's why the game's called High on Life.
Okay.
So, it's exactly where the game goes. I will also say, like, I'm not as far as my girlfriend. She's played more of it than I have, but she got the one gun that is voiced by that JB Smoove guy. Okay. You know who that is, right?
Yeah. He was in that doomed Blockbuster show.
Yeah, he's fantastic in this. He's fantastic in this. So, but you get your regular pistol. There's a knife that talks too much. Like that part of the game where I kind of wore thin on me is like the gun and the knife are talking at the same time. I'm like, this is getting out of control.
Yeah.
You can actually turn down the frequency of how much they talk. I haven't tried that yet, but I'm curious too. So, it's not it's not bad. And like I'll say, for again, a system that doesn't get very many exclusive games, this is not terrible. And it kind of reminds me of like early original Xbox era. Like, here's some wacky thing, we're just going to put it out and see how it does. And it seems like it's done pretty well thus far. So, but I'm enjoying it. I'll finish it. I'll probably finish it before I go back to Callisto Protocol, because I don't think it's a very long game either. With that, I will turn it over to you, Matt. You've played some as well, so I'll let you talk about it.
Yeah, so I mean, in the same aspect, I mean, I think the intro was pretty dope, and like the story so far isn't a horrible one.
It's not terrible, no.
It makes perfect sense as far as like what you're doing and like how you're going about it. So I feel like it's a pretty for all the games that we have right now, all of them are so serious. It like helps kind of break it up as far as like what to play that's just kind of goofy and fun to shoot around and stuff.
Yeah.
Now I will say I did play it pre-patch and post-patch.
Yeah, I did not. So you can talk about that.
Yeah, I started the game the morning it dropped, and it was so super sluggish. So like I went through the intro and like it was just slow moving, and I was like, man, I don't think I'm gonna be able to play this if this is how it is. And then like you told me the patch came out during work, and I was like, oh, okay, dope. I'll just go ahead and keep doing this. And
so pre-patch, the game was actually running at like 40 frames or something.
Yeah.
And what I told Matt is like the guy at Digital Foundry was actually getting a video ready to put out. And the people that make this game put out a patch to fix that. It works flawlessly now, to the point that that guy, I've never seen this happen. The guy's like, I'm not even going to put this video out. There's no point. Like the game's fixed. So it's nice to see that in an era where you have to wait a couple weeks. The fact that it happened day one is pretty cool.
Yeah, I think it was pretty dope itself. I'm probably not as far as your girlfriend is on the game. I think I am going into the second bounty. I was really hoping this vacation I would get more done, but that has not happened the way I was hoping it would go through. But in any case, I did play more of it. I know this is our last show, so my goal is to finish
it done when we come back mid-January.
Finish that and Scorn.
Okay.
Before we come back January time.
It's a good goal.
Yeah, so I think I'm going to tackle both of those. But I mean, from what I've been playing of it, it's fun. The gameplay so far can be a little repetitive because I feel like the villains are kind of the same, but
yeah,
I'm not too far into it, so I'm kind of staying open minded with it.
Sure.
I personally enjoy the knife. I think Stabby is pretty funny.
Yeah.
The gun, I forgot his name, but he can be kind of annoying. I think it's the high pitched tone of him.
Yeah,
that I'm not a big fan of.
It's that typical Rick and Morty I call it like uncertain humor, where it's like, hey, I don't really know why I'm here, but I'm gonna drag you to go there. Like it's that type of voice, and like that can wear thin on you after a while.
Yeah. But like I said, I've enjoyed it. I think it's fun. My goal is to definitely finish it while we're on this little break, and kind of go from there. I did also play a little bit of the Vampire Survivors DLC. Mm-hmm. I need to definitely play more of it. The new level though is pretty dope. I do like it. I think it's pretty cool.
It's really good.
Yeah, and then I actually jumped into Pokemon Scarlet.
Okay, yeah, tell me about that.
An hour and a half of that. It's not like Arceus. You know how in Arceus you were literally running around. Oh, I don't know if you guys played it.
I played the first 20 minutes of it.
I know about it.
So you were literally running around, and when you would run into Pokemon, you could throw your balls at them, or you could choose to fight them. This one kind of feels like they kind of made it a middle ground, where it's like Pokemon Sword and Shield, how you have to, like, when you walk up to them, you, like, engage in the actual Pokemon fight, and then you can choose to like, you know, throw your Pokeball at them and catch them, or not, if you really don't want to. So, I kind of like it because it's still open world, but it still kind of gives you that like little control environment, so you're not kind of like everywhere with it. I haven't run into any like issues with it yet,
like how it runs or any clipping issues or anything.
Yeah, I haven't run into anything big or serious so far. I am probably only about an hour and a half into it.
Okay.
So I'm not too far into it. You know, I picked your Pokemon. You're kind of going through. So you're the new trainer. You're starting a new school, and that's kind of what the beginning part of it is. It's like, you know, getting used to the battle system, the Pokemon that are around, and that kind of stuff. So I think it's pretty cool so far. But I am gonna also try to play more of that too, so I could talk more on it when we get back in.
For sure.
But so far, what I've played hasn't been horrible.
Okay.
It does make me want to go back and finish out Arceus, because I probably maybe played like 3.5 hours of Arceus before I stopped playing that, and I think I do want to go back and try to play more of that too. But I have enjoyed so far what I've played of it. I can say that.
Yeah. Well, did you get any kind of patch when you started the game?
Yes.
Okay. I did. So they may have already patched some of the issues that game had already too.
Yeah.
I haven't too deeply followed it, so I don't know, but it's definitely possible.
Yeah, I haven't either. Yeah, I do know, like, when I did start, it did ask me to download a new update, and I was like, okay, cool. Yeah, I was like, yeah, whatever, we can do that.
Okay. Does that wrap you up?
That's it for me. Yep.
All right. Well, we'll turn it to Dan, because you played another hot release that neither of us have played.
Yeah.
Completion, it sounds like.
Yes. So I finished it last night, but I've picked up and I've played through the entirety of Midnight Suns, that new like Marvel XCOM game.
Yeah, which looks really good.
It's really good. Like, I was, when they were first announced it, then they were kind of like, as they leaked more information, I was like, I don't even know.
Well, it got delayed a couple times.
What it's going to be like. It got delayed. The roster seemed kind of weird. And then it turned out that it was XCOM, but it was card based. It's not really like, you know, moving people around and doing it like that. And so I was like, you know what, though? I love Marvel stuff. I love XCOM stuff. Let's give it a shot. And I gotta say, I was hooked pretty much immediately. Like, it kind of throws you in right away. You get like a little tutorial battle. The card system, while it seems like it might be annoying, it's actually really, really good. And as you go on, you earn more cards, and you can like merge the cards to upgrade them.
Okay.
And so on and so on and so on. So you can really get to like, each character has like an 8-card deck. And then you pick 3 characters in missions, so their decks kind of mix together, and then you draw cards every turn. When you get towards the end, you can really make decks that are insane, where you get to go, because normally you only get to go like 3 times a round or whatever, but you can get it where doing a certain card a certain way like gives you a turn back. So you can go like 8, 9, 10 times a turn, and if you really know what you're doing, and like knocking people around the arena. The story is really good. It all makes sense. It's split up into like 3 chapters, and
who's the best character in the game?
You know what? It's normally in a game like this, I would say you pick like the 3 people you really like, and you tend to stick with them. You know, In this game, that's not really true. Everybody kind of has their strengths and weaknesses. Like, it's kind of weird. Like, I've really found myself using everybody a lot. That's cool. And because the game also has a system built in for like you can have friendships with these people. And as you build up friendships, you unlock better cards. So it really pays to like spend time with each of them, take them on missions, interact with them, like give them gifts, all this kind of stuff. It seems stupid because it's kind of like a dating sim, but it's actually really good. And you learn a lot more about the characters, like their backstory from like Marvel Comics, because it's got some weird one-off people you may not have ever like come across as like a casual fan. But then of course it's got Captain America and Iron Man and Spider-Man. So
is Blade in it, or is he DLC?
Oh yeah, he's a main character.
Blade's in it.
Yeah, the DLC people are Venom, Deadpool, Morbius, and somebody else, I think.
There's like one other person, I think.
Yeah, I forget who it is. It's weird because Venom, like you come across him, he's a villain in the game, like pretty early on. But so are a couple other characters that you end up getting. So it's not really that surprising that they can just add him to it.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm hoping that with the addition of these characters, it'll be like extra story mission like content type stuff.
That's what I would hope.
Just because it really would work, because you would just go do different like missions and stuff with them. Because the mission board is kind of laid out like, oh, I want to do this mission. You have to bring Iron Man, and then you can pick the other 2 people you want. What's cool is like, so you make a character called the Hunter, like in the beginning, and the story's all about your character. You don't have to bring them on every mission. Like, even though you're them, you can, if you want to be Iron Man, Cap, and Spider-Man, you can be if you want to. But I picked the Hunter for every battle just because I really felt like that was kind of the point of the story. Each mission has like, there's different goals where it's like either defeat everybody or survive a certain amount of waves or capture this person or destroy this truck or whatever. They're really basic kind of things, but as the game goes on, like the enemies definitely get crazier. It probably took me around 45 hours to really finish everything. The game also has this really cool part of it where you're in what's called the Abbey. It's like your headquarters, but there's also like grounds around the Abbey that you can go off and explore. And they're like little puzzles to get chests open that give you like costumes and all stuff.
Is it kind of like the crypt from Mortal Kombat?
That's the closest thing I would equate it to. Yeah, it's like you're running around solving puzzles. There's no enemies or anything out there. It's more about like the environment and using these like secret power words you get to open areas. And the game, it kind of progresses on its own aside from the story. But there's a benefit to it because you can find ingredients scattered around, like plants and stuff, that eventually you get the ability to like craft the plants into cards or other things like that.
That's cool.
And then the those are like one-off cards, like you're in a mission that'll be like, give me 2 extra moves, and you can use it and you get 2 extra moves in the battle. It's really crazy like how actually good it is. Now, that being said, I ran into multiple bugs. And which, by all accounts, they fixed the most glaring one, which was if you tried to manually save over an autosave, it would just crash the game. It would literally sit there for like 30 seconds, and then it would just be like, nah, never mind. It would crash out to the thing and said, "Do you want to send a report?" The one night I lost like 2 hours of progress. And I was like, ooh, because the autosave system, not great. That seems like it's fixed. I had another weird one the other night where all of a sudden everything went shades of yellow, like just nonstop. Everything was like yellow.
That's weird.
I don't know what happened. It was during the end of a mission, and then when I got out of it, it was gone. So that was weird. I had another weird crash where like there's a like a sparring thing you could do daily. You pick someone to spar against and they get a boost for the next mission they go on. If I tried to spar with Wolverine right after I unlocked him, it just crashed the game. no matter what. So it's like, okay, maybe I won't spar with Wolverine for a little bit. But ever since they did a patch, and ever since then, I really have not run into anything like game breaking. Part of it I think the game doesn't like rest mode very much, because it's always, when it boots back out of rest mode, it's very slow. Like it chugs.
Do you use rest mode a lot? I say I don't use rest mode on my PS5 very often. So.
I do, just because it's the game I'm actively playing, so I might as well leave it open. But this game doesn't like it. But as you know, Star Ocean before didn't seem to care. So I think it's just there's a lot going on in this game at all times. The only real downside I had with like the story and the gameplay is the final boss battle is kind of like a boss rush kind of a thing. And it took over an hour and a half just for like one thing. Well, because it's constantly like, do this to get to the next part, to get to the next part, to get to the next part. There's a cool mechanic with that last fight where, this isn't really a spoiler, but depending on the people you've spent the most time with throughout the game, those are the people that help you the most at the end.
That's cool.
So it's kind of neat because there's a payoff, I guess, to how you played the game.
Okay.
And then, me, like you can get every trophy in one playthrough except one, because there's a like light side, dark side path where like answers you pick are light or dark. And then you get cards that are light or dark, and the more you use those, the more points you get.
Do you have to do a full second playthrough?
You don't have to do a full one. There's a new game plus, which I'm running right now to do the dark picks, but it's still going to take a while because those options don't come up that often.
Yeah.
And the new game plus is weird because you don't keep levels or cards. You just have everybody unlocked and all your customizable and your friendship levels. So it's a little weird. It doesn't really feel like a new game plus. I don't know. They haven't said anything, but probably a couple months, I would guess, is when they start rolling it out. But I might wait for all 4 of them to come out and then just maybe do.
Oh, there's 4.
Other
I haven't paid attention to what it is.
There's 4 other characters.
Other than the characters.
Yeah. So I might just wait until they all come out and then maybe do another run, because I don't know if I necessarily want to run through just a dark run.
Yeah.
Skipping it right now. But it's really good. I am surprised at how good it was. They should totally make another one of these and just change out the people that are in it. It's great. And it's the kind of thing where maybe you don't want to pay full price if you're not a big like strategy person, but
it'll be on sale pretty
soon. It'll be $40 at some point. It's totally worth it.
Even with having Marvel characters, it's a niche style game.
Yeah, because it's not
going to appeal to everybody.
It's not even Ultimate Alliance. You're not running around punching dudes. You're making strategical decisions about like, if I hit this guy, it'll knock back into a certain thing. Yeah, it's not hard by any means. Like you can play through it on normal. Like there's even like a story difficulty where if like you just want to see what it's like. You know how games.
Yeah, most games do that.
Yeah, but then this thing also has like 10 other difficulty levels above normal, and it kind of like unlocks them as you go. It's like you can play this version now or this version now. I just never bothered because, not that I don't think the game is hard, would make it significantly harder. I just don't necessarily want to invest that much more time into a battle for the same rewards. Essentially, like you get a little bit more hero XP, but the level cap is 25, and you'll hit that by the end if you're doing side missions. It's not hard. Great game. Super. I was impressed with it, even though I knew I would like it right away, but it's still better than I thought it would be. And then the only other thing I played, and we talked about this a little while ago where I bought it, was I finally started Babylon's Fall, just because my buddy and I are going to try to get this platinum.
Isn't
by
it February?
February 28th is when it's supposed to go down.
Boy. Does it seem obtainable though?
Yes.
Okay.
Because it is essentially play through the story. And then there's a couple things you got to do after. Surprisingly enough, when I got on, there were like 3 or 4 other people playing, which I would assume they're
doing the same thing.
They're doing the same thing. One guy joined one of our missions when we did it, and having 3 people as opposed to 2 makes it infinitely easier to get through a mission. The biggest problem I have with this game, other than the fact that it looks like garbage, is it looks like absolute trash.
It's a PS4 game. It's not actually a PS4.
Oh yeah, I wouldn't even call it a PS4 game, to be fair.
It's a PS3 game.
PS3-ish. It is slow, slow as fuck. It's a platinum game, and it's so slow. Your character just feels everything just feels heavy. Like the attacking feels heavy, the moving feels heavy. What it really reminded me of is, this is a weird comp, but it reminds me of Strangers of Paradise, but if it was like even slower and like smaller. And like I like Strangers of Paradise enough, but it's literally just like you get into a level at point A and you fight to point B, and then maybe there's a boss. That's all it is. But at least in Strangers of Paradise, like there's multiple ways to go, and like there's hidden stuff to find. This is literally point A to point B, fight this awful boss, and it's just everything about it is bad. Like this, if there's a story, I don't know what it is. The combat is not intuitive. It like getting new gear. It's just the typical things like this has power 16, this has power 17, this has power 18. But then again, they've all got like different modifiers and stuff on it. So it's like, is it really better? Who knows? So, but for our purposes, it's literally just put on the thing with the highest number and keep moving. We got through, I think percentage wise, we're 22% through already after like one session. So it can be done. Like we've got, a little, around
down
2
the road,
months.
it might be a pretty rare platinum to have.
It's funny. It's funny because like overall, that's based on how many people have played the game in general. So it might not be just because
that many people have played this.
No, because not that many people have.
Oh,
so
I see.
It might not be rare just because not that many people have, and those that did are doing it just to get it done before it shuts off. But it'll just be a funny game to have. It's another game that goes on the shelf where it's either been like recalled or shut off, or it's a relic of days past when physical games mattered and everything wasn't online all the time. Destiny's gonna be like that someday.
What was the failed Borderlands game?
Which
remember
one?
the people that made Borderlands came out right before.
Battleborn.
That's what I was thinking of.
Yeah. There's that. There was.
I don't think I have a copy of that.
No, remember All Points Bulletin for PC.
Mm-hmm.
I have a physical PC copy of that game. Just like random stuff like that. It's gonna go away, and it'll be fun to be able to look at my trophy list and be like, wow, a platinum for Babylon's Fall. I did that for some reason.
Well, now that Midnight Suns is pretty much done, what's next?
Crisis Core.
What are you looking at?
It's sitting.
Oh yeah,
it's sitting right here.
I have that. I got my copy too.
Dying to play it, but I was like, if I start that now, I'm not going to finish Midnight Suns anytime soon.
Yeah.
So I got to do this first, and then I still have Star Ocean cleanup I got to do, but Crisis Core is going in the system probably tomorrow.
Yeah. So. No, I need to. I want to play Crisis Core too. So it's sitting here. Well, that kind of wraps up what we've been playing. We can jump into the news. We're going to start with all the Game Awards stuff. Game Awards, we don't really need to go over too much like what won or anything like that. It's pretty obvious. The games that won stuff, like the most important awards, are kind of what you expected. Elden Ring was Game of the Year.
Mm-hmm. It was really down to that. It was down to that and God of War, like everybody knew.
Yeah, God of War won a bunch of things. That Christopher Judge guy that does Kratos, and she does a tremendous job as that voice. He won. He talked way too long.
He was giving away some Steam Decks, man.
I think the bigger thing this year, he was giving Steam Decks that neither of us won.
No, nobody won a Steam Deck that I know of. So
but MILF Hunter won.
MILF Hunter won.
Everybody should be happy, right? But yeah, no, like the thing I'll say about it this year is like I don't remember in the past them really playing people off, but this year he kind of started that trend, and then that was a trend through the rest of the show.
Well, he made everybody else pay for it because he went 8 minutes long.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and then I'm sure Jeff Q sitting aside like we need to get him off the stage. Steam Decks.
It's funny. It's funny because I really felt like I was like, man, are they gonna play him off? Do they even have like a contingency plan for this? Yeah. And then 5 minutes later, the music started playing. It's like you probably should have started playing that
a little earlier,
pretty early. Like I get that he's excited and he won and stuff, and he's grateful, but like he just was rambling.
Well,
like
it didn't help.
Halfway through, nothing made any sense.
It also did not help his cause that Al Pacino is who like introduced that, and like Al Pacino had no fucking idea where he was. He was smashed.
He was one of many people that night presenting who did not know they were.
Yeah, but he even more so is like he basically came out as like I don't even like video games, but my kids do. It was weird. So, but yeah, I mean, basically everything that you thought was going to win an award won an award. They did the same thing they've been doing in previous years, where they rattle off like 6 awards and then show you a bunch of trailers and then rattle 6 more off. Mm-hmm. So it's to the point where a lot of the awards don't even really seem like they matter.
They could probably cut some awards from that show.
I think they could. Like, I'm just looking at the list here. There's like over 20.
Yeah.
And like, I don't feel like that awards, they need that many. The Oscars doesn't even have that many anymore.
Yeah.
So.
Like the community stuff, like I get it, but that could probably go.
Or it could be a pre-show thing.
Yeah, or that could all be pre-show. Like the fact that they were giving out actual awards during the pre-show is like, then why is this a pre-show?
Crazy.
Exactly. What is the point? What is differentiating these two things?
Yeah. But we'll go through. The more important thing is we'll go through the announcements. We do. I will read one email when we're done with the announcements here that fits into the Game Awards. But there were some pre-show announcements too. I think the coolest one of those, other than you can get Vampire Survivors for free on phones, but I will tell you, I've tried the phone version. It's not great. It is only touch control. And I don't like touch controls, but if that's your jam, you can play the game that way. So, and it's free. It's the entire game for free. Not that game is very expensive, but the Dead Cells thing was probably the most important thing I saw here, which is they're doing a Castlevania DLC, which makes sense given what Dead Cells kind of plays like.
Well, yeah.
And the theme of that game. So that's pretty cool. That's something I'll play. They also showed, like, I think there was a new Hellboy game. Again, these were kind of some of the smaller announcements.
Yeah.
New trailer for that Replace game. That was a Game Pass game they were talking about a while ago. Just really small things, but then we'll kick off to the main show here. So I thought this one was kind of funny and ironic. So Supergiant Games is just making a sequel to Hades. This is a studio who very famously has said we'll never make a sequel to one of our games, but hey,
except for the most popular one.
All these awards. Yeah, let's do that. Whatever. Hades is a really good game, so that's cool. We finally got our BioShock 4 trailer, which is just another BioShock-like game from Ken Levine called Judas. It looks cool. I don't really have much more to say. It's just a game I would like to just play. It's much like the previous BioShock games. I don't really need much more to sell me on it. I'd rather just play it when it comes out. So, like, the trailer they showed there looks really cool. I think I mentioned this one to you, Dan, because it just looked weird. Destiny 2's like latest expansion looks really bizarre.
It doesn't look like Destiny, right?
It looks like just some generic free-to-play game now, which I guess that's kind of where it is at, but it just looked bizarre considering how much they put into the environments and stuff in that game.
Yeah.
This doesn't look like that. This looks like something they quickly threw together.
It's weird. It looks like a different genre of game.
It's really bizarre. Yeah. Probably the hardest announcement here. Suicide Squad did get a release date. We'll see if it keeps its May 26th release date. But
yeah, sure.
The cool part about it is Kevin Conroy. This will be his final appearance as Batman. He recorded it a couple months ago before he passed. Really, really cool to have that as his final performance. It made my girlfriend go from, I'm not going to play this Suicide Squad game to, well, I guess I have to now. So, because she doesn't really care about it because you're not playing as Batman, but she wants to see that. So, but that it has a date. We'll see if it keeps that date. I'm up in the air on if it will or not. Star Wars Jedi Survivor launches in March. I believe it's March 16th, March 17th, something like that. Looks awesome. So I really like that last game that came out. I'm glad that that studio that made Titanfall, I can't think of their name off the top of my head, but they Respawn. I love Titanfall. I'm glad they still
Respawn's
can make
really
something
good.
that's single player. So, and they used a lot of that wall running mechanics in the last Jedi game. So you'll be able to do that again here. Really good game. I hope this one's, I'm going to replay the first one. I think like January, February, just to remember.
It's cool that they're actually making an actual sequel to a Star Wars game. And it's,
yeah,
you know, like,
and it's got that dude that he was in Shameless. He was the Joker on Gotham. He's a really good actor.
Yeah, he's cool.
He seems like he really likes playing that character. So it looks good. I look forward to that. I like that he was a little bit. He had a more harder look to him. He had like a beard and kind of scruffed up look. So
yeah,
he definitely looks like a Jedi survivor.
Well, being a Jedi is a hard life. Man.
They did a first in-engine. I'm skipping over some of the smaller ones here.
Sure.
But they did a first in-engine look at Dune Awakening, which is a Dune MMO. I don't know if this will go anywhere because there is a audience for Dune. There is a fandom to Dune, but I don't know.
Absolutely.
I don't know if it's big enough to. I don't know if it's big enough to support an MMO. So that'll be interesting. But it didn't look terrible. Let's see here. There was Tekken 8. So they did also show Street Fighter 6. They showed Tekken 8. we've talked about Street Fighter 6 in the past. I think like it looks like the most fun Street Fighter has looked in a while. I just think visually something looks off in that game. It just looks wonky to me. Whereas Tekken 8 looks fantastic visually to me. So, but again, two really prominent fighting, and especially since there's no Mortal Kombat announcement here or Injustice 3, you're getting a Street Fighter. Street Fighter got dated. I think it's June 2nd. Tekken 8 didn't get dated, but it's probably fall, I would imagine.
Yeah, those both look incredible.
So,
like, I am amped for, like, I didn't even like Street Fighter 5 very much. 6 looks really good.
I played a little bit of 4. I did not play 5 at all because 5, I don't know, 5 had a lot of scrutiny around it. So, like I said, this looks like the most fun Street Fighter has looked in a while. So, I guess there was one Xbox thing here, and that's going to be the email I read in a little bit, but they showed multiple games coming to Game Pass. They're all games you already knew are coming to Game Pass, so it didn't really matter. Diablo 4, that was the other one of the bigger announcements. It has a release date now, June 6th.
Yeah, I think that'll make it.
They did not show any gameplay here because they didn't have to. They released a bunch of footage the previous day of gameplay, so they just showed a cinematic trailer. It doesn't matter. It's Diablo. I'm going to play it. I'll get it day one. I'm really excited. So, love Diablo. And you could probably speak more on this, Dan, but there's that Blue Protocol. We were laughing about that one.
Which one was that?
The Genshin, Amazon Genshin.
The Amazon Genshin
Protocol.
Impact game? Yeah.
That's what it is.
That's all it is. That's a game. That's all a genre. Genshin Impact is a genre of game now. Which I've played Genshin Impact. I like Genshin Impact, but I don't need another one.
No, I don't either. What I need to do is put more time into Genshin Impact.
Yeah, I need to go back and play more of that.
So they showed a trailer for Remnant 2. I've never played the first one, so I can't really speak to that. Splash Damage is making a new Transformers game. That was a really weird trailer.
That was a bizarre trailer. I had no clue what was happening.
Let's see here. This was a game I thought looked really, really cool. This Banishers game.
So that's the Don't Nod game, right?
It was a Don't Nod game, but it's different. It's like an action RPG, but like it's your character, and then I'm guessing it's your wife or your girlfriend or something. She's a ghost, and it's about you like banishing these different people in this in the like I want to say 1800s, 1700s, somewhere around there. It looked really, really cool. That one at least was appropriately late 2023, but it's a Don't Nod game. Those people have never they've always been like a story first studio. I don't think they've ever made an RPG, so this will be interesting.
Well, wait, did they make Remember Me?
They made but that's not an RPG. That was just an action game.
Yeah, but it had like
you could love.
Yeah, I know. You and I are the only people that like that game, so that's fine.
I like to Remember Me. A lot of people.
It's a cool game. No,
so. Warhammer 40,000 Space Marine, or I should say 40K. Warhammer fans will get mad if I call it 40,000. Warhammer 40K Space Marine 2 got a new trailer. That first game is really cool. It's bizarre. It's getting a sequel 15 years later, but I'm all for it. And this trailer looked even better than the last one. So I look forward to playing that. 2023. So a lot of things. This was bizarre to me. And maybe it was bizarre. I don't think we talked about this because we were texting back and forth while we were watching. Yeah. I don't think we had this conversation. The Crash Bandicoot thing. Why bring him out to announce a multiplayer thing?
Just like a shitty multiplayer thing? Yeah.
When it wasn't just Crash Bandicoot 5, or maybe a sequel to the racing game.
I think that would have been a bigger deal. But
this was
another weird
Mario
party game
type. I don't know.
The world has enough of weird.
We have enough of
party
those
games.
There was a new trailer for The Lords of the Fallen, which is like the reboot of that. I still think that looks really cool.
Yeah,
but you have to be into the Souls type games. Weirdest trailer and just overall like announcement of the night was the Crime Boss game. Crime Boss.
What a bizarre series.
What a bizarre thing. So they brought out Michael Madsen. Like he also I'll say this.
He looked
more
worse
than Al Pacino.
I don't know,
but
man.
He looked worse than Al Pacino.
Yeah, he looked worse. They looked like they were holding him up.
The weird part about it is the game comes out in I think March or April for PC on the Epic Game Store only, and then it comes to consoles in August or something like that.
But then the other weird part is it looks like it's a Vice City game, but it's a Payday game.
Yeah, it's set in a world that looks like Vice City only in the 90s,
right?
But then it is basically Payday. So, just really, really weird. Then they did the other thing that's really cool. Cyberpunk announced its DLC Phantom Liberty, and they announced another huge celebrity for that, which is Idris Elba.
That's crazy.
Which that's crazy and awesome, and I look forward to that. Again, now at this given point, like Cyberpunk's a fantastic game to play. Highly recommend it.
Yeah.
If you're on a next gen system or PC, don't try and play it on an older platform. And then the final two that we'll talk about, for whatever reason, the article I'm looking at here omitted the biggest one, so I'll talk about it at the end. But Armored Core 6 got announced, which I'm excited about. I'm excited that it's called 6.
Yeah,
I think that's cool. I'm glad that they're taking a break from Souls games to make a true Armored Core sequel. The trailer was awesome. It's all CG, but it was awesome. I've always liked those games, so I look forward to it. It says 2023. We'll see if it hits this year.
I would assume so. It's probably been in production quite a while. Like
easily. And they've said they're not making it a Souls game.
No, it's not a Souls game. It's an Armored Core game, which is good. Like, take a break. Mm-hmm. You just made the best Souls game. Now you can take a break.
You can take a break for that for a while. People can play that forever.
Yeah, and then you can come back and, maybe this is a way to get people into Armored Core now that they're all From Software fans. And then make Bloodborne 2, and everybody will be happy.
Yeah. And then for whatever reason, I didn't see it in the article, or maybe I skipped over it, but I would argue the biggest announcement, my favorite announcement of the night, Death Stranding 2 is real.
Of course.
We kind of knew it was coming. The trailer, what I'll say is the trailer was the most straightforward Kojima trailer, but also the most fucked up one he's ever made.
Yeah, like it actually it makes sense.
It's bizarre though. Like now there's an octopus baby. Like there are actual Metal Gears in this game. It seems like the character Higgs, who's Troy Baker's character, is like somehow alive now in like some cyber outfit, but he's playing a guitar, which seemed wild, like a guitar gun thing. Like everything about it looked like just as bonkers as I would want it to be in the best possible way. But somehow it was a straightforward trailer. It wasn't this 8 minutes of I'm fighting oil people or something like that. It
was the first one that like you could just watch it from an outsider and be like, okay, I kind of get it. Old man
Norman Reedus. Right. I don't know why he's old. Like everything about it it looks fantastic.
Well, it seems like it's a time jump for sure.
It's a 2024 game for sure. PS5 only for right now is what they're saying. That was my announcement of the show. But I figured it probably would be.
Did you mention Judas? Did I miss you mentioning Judas?
Yeah, I talked about at the beginning.
That was my favorite.
That looks cool.
Yeah.
That was your favorite one?
Well, because I told you when we made the predictions, I said, where's that Ken Levine thing? Like, what is that? What is he doing? Oh, yeah. And then he makes this, and like, to be fair, it just looks like BioShock, but I don't care.
That's fine.
That's what I want.
That's what that guy makes well. Why not make another BioShock? Yeah. It's been 8 years.
It looks
9 years.
Cool as hell.
Yeah. And then the show ended with its final announcement, which is the one you should be most excited about, Dan, is the announcement of the release date for Final Fantasy 16.
Sure.
Which is fucking June 22nd?
Yeah, it's right around my kid's birthday. Yeah.
I really hope it keeps that date because it's perfect. Like, it could have a huge RPG out in the summer.
It could.
It never happens.
But I could also be, you could see like 2 weeks before, they're like, we need 2 more months.
I could see
it's August, whatever now. And you'd be like, okay, sure. It's fine.
Sure. But it continues to look incredible. So that was pretty much it as far as announcements. I thought it was a good Game Awards year. So
yeah. It was the Game Awards, it was exactly what it is. It's
exactly
for better or worse. It's been better than some of the versions lately. Yeah.
So I wanted to read one email because it directly involves the Game Awards. So I'm going to push that out here.
Yeah.
This comes to us from Bob from West Lynn, Oregon. Says, hey guys, love the podcast. Was really happy overall with the Game Awards presentation here. What is going on with Microsoft? They had nothing to show. Redfall is supposedly out in March. Starfield should be around the corner, and yet they couldn't show a single game. I can't remember a previous year where they didn't have anything. Really disappointed as an Xbox fan. What did you all think? It was shocking, honestly, that they didn't have a single thing to show. And like Phil Spencer was there. They showed him.
Yeah, I mean, well, he's always.
They showed him. So, I thought it was funny because they were like, "Here's the head of Nintendo. Here's the head of Xbox," and then crickets for Sony. And I kind of expected that. Yet Sony's who had everything to show. So, I don't know what they're doing. Maybe it's they had a really bad week last week, which we're about to talk about in the news with the deal and the FTC and all that. But like, I have to imagine, like, if Redfall is really March, that all they had to do was show that.
Yeah, but like, is there anything new to show?
I don't know.
There's nothing.
They can make a hype trailer,
maybe, but there's nothing. There's nothing new to show for Starfield, so they're not going to bother.
No, if Todd Howard doesn't want to show that, they're not going to show it.
Like, and anything in that vein is far off. Like, we joked about Hellblade 2, wherever that is. Like, that's clearly like gone for now.
Perfect Dark, Avowed, like Fable,
clearly stuff that's not even close. It's crazy. You know, in the past, Sony has like skipped E3 and skipped this and that, and people were like, "Well, I can't believe they do it," and then you don't talk about it. Like, Microsoft is. I mean, who really knows what they're doing? They're in a weird place right now where they really need this deal done. And just nothing.
Stop talking about it.
And then just nothing they have is close. Exactly. You know, Redfall is the next closest thing, which looks good. And then the other thing is like, what are those trailers? Just trailers for Game Pass again? Like, that's all it is. Yeah. Everything Microsoft is just Game Pass now. So,
well, that's the thing I think people have to remember too, is like, they're not up there to try and sell you a system. They're out there to try and sell you Game Pass.
Right. They want a subscription.
They don't care what system you own.
Right.
They care about that subscription.
Right. And you know, for them not showing anything, like, is it weird? Maybe a little bit. It's
very weird,
but it's not like
there's been I've seen rumors of like, oh, they're going to have some sort of January event or something.
Well, that's the thing. They could always just do that.
Do a PlayStation like event. PlayStation
just like, hey,
Nintendo does.
We wanted to come out with a 45-minute like sizzle reel of stuff we got coming in 23 and wanted to show.
I could also imagine when we're like 3 months away from Starfield. Hey, here's a 45-minute like deep dive on Starfield.
Todd will play through this part of the game. Yeah.
Exactly. Oh, here's a release date. Start reserving, because they're going to want to kick off reserves for that game with a bang. So,
well, yeah, but even like, ready. Are you reserving it, or are you just getting Game Pass?
I know, exactly. So it'll be interesting, but yeah, to me it was weird. It's because he was there. I think I would be a little more okay with it if he wasn't there. Like, okay, they don't have anything to talk about. Why was he there then? Like, because he didn't even present an award.
Right.
Like, he just was sitting in the audience. So it was just kind of weird.
I think maybe that was a little weirder. Like, maybe because he didn't go up there at all. Because Reggie was up there. Yeah.
Exactly. Reggie was up there. That Doug Bowser guy had to accept like every Nintendo award that happened because those teams weren't there.
He doesn't let them out of the building for this.
Apparently.
I'll collect the awards.
On their behalf.
You go sue some indie developer for using a sprite.
But yeah, that kind of wraps up the Game Awards, so we can move on here to some of the other news. I've seen some people getting upset about this. I don't think this is that big of a deal. But Microsoft is now raising the prices on their new first-party games built for the Xbox X and S to $70 in 2023. We knew it was going to happen.
Well, it was going to happen.
The argument I'd make there is, again, you're going to play these games on Game Pass.
Right.
Like, the one game that maybe people won't and they will go out and buy instead is Starfield. Yeah. I can see that, but that's it.
But even then, if we're talking about we live in an era when games are $70, that's a $70 game. So don't spend $70. Buy Game Pass and play everything else too. Like, don't.
Yeah. Maybe buy Game Pass and then buy the game when it goes on sale.
Yeah. Well, there's no reason to buy.
You have to stay subscribed to Game Pass if you don't want to.
But there's no reason to buy these games when you could just get the service. Like, it's just that's what the price of it is.
Exactly. So again, I for this, I think it's more of a non-issue than some of the other companies because Game Pass is there as an option.
Mm-hmm.
So we have multiple articles about the Microsoft Sony COD bullshit. Sony kind of made a shitty comment about Nintendo being a kid's machine. Basically, they don't understand why Microsoft would make that deal, because basically how it started was Microsoft went to Nintendo now as kind of a back churn thing of like, hey, we'll cut a deal and you can have Call of Duty on your system for 10 years, which I can imagine playing Call of Duty on this current Switch, but that's me. But then Sony kind of backhanded them with, why would you go and do that? that's a kid's machine kind of a comment. Like, it's getting really rough.
Because we're just trying to get games to more people. Like, I don't.
And the thing I laugh about is now Phil Spencer's come out and said Sony wants to grow by making Xbox smaller. That's exactly true, though.
That's what they're trying to do.
I don't think the statement he made is wrong, because if this deal doesn't go through, that's exactly what happens. So,
right.
And I should mention it here in one of these articles, the FTC is actually stepping in with a lawsuit. Will the lawsuit actually go through and block this deal? I don't think so. I think at some point someone's going to give. There'll be some sort of agreement.
Because now
what's going to go back and forth?
I think the lawsuit is meant more so now to like, now we got to look at it legally. We got to bring both of you in. You both have to make arguments, all this kind of stuff. But if Sony's argument is you're taking away an exclusive that you've said you'll give us for 10 years for free, essentially, that's not really an argument anymore. And they're also doing it the same time when a game like Final Fantasy 16 is PS5 only. Death Stranding, that's a PlayStation only game. Like, you cannot, you don't own this stuff. But
the Silent Hill 2 remake is PS.
You're arguing against exclusives while talking about nothing but exclusives. So
I think one of the other Microsoft reps put out an article like with the actual numbers. I don't remember, but it was something like 200 plus versus 59 exclusives between PlayStation and Xbox. So. Like, there's no argument really to be had there.
If Microsoft is willing to give you Call of Duty and tell you can put it on Plus,
put it on PlayStation Plus for 10 years,
and remember, Sony would make all the money off of all the PlayStation Network cards being used to buy shit for those games. What are they talking about?
I don't know. It's just, I think the whole point now with the FTC thing is just to delay the deal, because it's not going to go through in June next year anymore. It'll be end of the year now.
It'll be a while
for sure.
But and then I love the part too where Phil even went to Gabe Newell and was like, "We'll give you a deal," and he's like, "You don't have to. It's fine."
Yeah, they don't care.
I don't care. I know he's like, you're not. He's like, I know you're not going to screw us, Phil. So what do I care? I don't care. I don't need a deal.
He just gave out 200 Steam Decks. Like, he doesn't care.
He doesn't care.
Not at all.
Steam's doing fine.
Steam's doing absolutely fine. So I don't know. It's more back and forth. I'm sure we'll have even more to talk about when we come back.
It's every month. Every month there's some other like 3 or 4 stupid
articles.
Thing. Yeah. Somebody makes a stupid comment.
It's an idiotic thing, man.
Yeah.
It's not even nothing to worry about.
It's dumb. Moving on to that, to some Days Gone BS, which, like, I don't know why Days Gone keeps popping up in the news, but it does. The guy that created Days Gone is mad still because that game. He's been mad since it came out because the game he thinks wasn't given the opportunities that other Sony first party exclusives were. And they're not making another Days Gone.
But the problem is his reason why they weren't given the opportunities is a little
because he thinks that the reviewers that reviewed it were woke because of there's a comment in the game
you're a white biker dude.
Well, there's a comment made in the game by the guy's wife when they're exchanging their wedding vows about well, I hope you ride me as much as your Harley or something dumb like that. And apparently this guy now is trying to say, well, the woke reviewers didn't like that line. It's like, no, like, it's not a game it's a zombie game. Right. Zombie games are not for everybody.
It was a zombie game.
They're not going to appeal to anyone. Not to everybody.
Post Last of Us Part 1.
Yeah, exactly.
So you're already behind because we've literally just had one of the best zombie games of all time. And yours is a dude riding his motorcycle around. Like, it's going to be a tough to buy in for a lot of people.
That guy who he is working on something else, and I can't remember what it is. It's actually a pretty high profile game, but the people that are still at Sony Bend came out. They're just trying to once again distance themselves from that guy even more. So,
like, we don't know what he's talking
situation. About. It's a weird situation. Like, he needs to just stop talking about it. Like, it's over. There's not going to be another Days Gone. It, like, as someone who played it this year, it's a bummer because I enjoyed the game, but
yeah, we talked about it. I've always wanted to like try to play it, but
it's time to move on. You know. So this is an article I thought was funny. The Last of Us Part 1 is coming to PC in March. It costs $20 less on PC.
That is
$50 day one.
That's a weird one.
But $70 on PS5. So I just threw that out there because I thought it was funny. I don't think there's much more to say there than it's dumb.
I just don't think they want to price themselves out of the PC market because they're trying to get into it. So maybe putting it at 70 on PC, they're like, well, maybe not.
They tried that with the first game was at Horizon. One of them came out at 70 and nobody bought it, and they had to lower it right away. So That's exactly why. Also throwing it in there just to say Sonic Frontiers has sold 2.5 million copies.
That's great.
That's really good.
Yeah.
I hope we get another one. I have my copy.
I think
I'm going to try it at some point here.
2.5 million guarantees you another one.
Another Sonic Frontiers.
Easily. Yeah. Because they're going to really think about it this way. They're going to make another one anyway. They're never going to stop making a Sonic game no matter what happens.
Mm-hmm.
But now you'll get another Frontiers style
game. This next one, you and I were laughing about when it got announced. The Hogwarts game got delayed for last gen. At the same time, they also announced the Switch version, which I forgot was a thing. So how that game's going to roll out now is the PS5 and Series X and S versions come out in February as planned. The last gen PS4, Xbox One versions come out in April. And then this Switch version maybe comes out in July. Ugh. But they also, there was supposed to be early access. Last gen just doesn't get that now.
They don't get that anymore because the game will have already been out for a couple of months. So they're like, yeah, you don't get that.
So
if you pre-ordered the deluxe version,
the game for that, you just don't get that now.
You don't get that. You don't get the perk that came with buying the deluxe version. Absurd.
It's wacky.
Well, like the thing is like, I'm surprised they didn't just say those versions are done, but I think they're too deep in it now. And then the Switch version is just going to come out and be a broken mess, whatever it is. And they're just going to be like, that's the cost of playing on a Switch. Sorry.
Exactly. This one's exciting. Mega Man Battle Network Legacy Collection got announced. Release date got announced for April 14th. I've already reserved my copy.
That's an awesome collection.
Awesome collection. So I look forward to digging through those games. This was just an interesting article I threw in here because it goes with that High on Life game. I think this is cool. There are actually 4 different full-length movies you can sit down and watch. Again, I'm not going to sit here and say good movies, but there are 4 because there's a character in the game that just sits on the couch in your house and just watches TV. So it's playing one of these 4 movies on loop, but there's actually an achievement where you can sit down and watch the movie. You don't have to watch the entire movie, but there are 4 of them in there. One of them is an old movie that has Paul Walker in it.
What movie?
Like a T-Rex or something.
Oh man! So they just got some old B-roll stuff and put him in there.
Exactly. That's so good. It's cool. It's really cool though. In fact, I can tell you here.
You remember The Darkness had an entire movie in it. It had To Kill a Mockingbird in it, I think, is what it was.
Yeah.
And there was
you're right.
I think there was a trophy or an achievement to sit on the couch with your girlfriend and watch it for 10 minutes or something.
So there's 4 movies in it. The one that's listed here is Tammy and the T-Rex, which is a 1994 sci-fi horror comedy film starring Denise Richards and Paul Walker.
Wow.
You can watch it along with the Gene, that's the character who sits on the couch in the movie, or you can view it in the movie theater where you unlock when you unlock that later in the game. That's where you unlock the achievement.
Wow. Okay.
The other 3 movies that you can watch in there are Vampire Hookers from 1978.
Hell yeah.
Blood Harvest and something called Demon Wind.
Wow.
But yeah, the achievement I believe is called the achievement is called "We paid for the rights to put a whole movie."
That's really good.
So, pretty cool. Pretty cool. This is exciting for me. We got double East news here. So East 10 has been announced. It has a title now, which I gotta open it here. And then another East game got announced too. But East 10, it's called East 10 Nordics, announced for PS5 and PS4. The important thing to point there, other than you're actually driving a ship this time.
Ooh.
So you have a sailing ship, which is cool. It's on a new engine.
Oh, okay.
So for the first time, they haven't updated their engine in a while. It is 2023 in Japan, which means I'm going to say probably February, March 2024 here.
Yeah.
If it comes like the other games. They're also overhauling the combat system. So that's going to be, I love the combat system in that game, but it sounds like they're going to make it easier to transition characters.
Okay.
In the combat system, which sounds cool.
That was a little slow.
So I'm into that, but I love the E series. I need to play now. I have a date for that, so now I know how much time I have to play 9.
Yeah, right.
We are also getting a remake of, I think, the first, second, or third. I'm trying to figure it out here. It's 3. So this is actually a game I own for Super Nintendo. I actually have physical copies. It's a remake of that game. East 3 Wanderers from East is coming out. It's going to be called East Memoir, The Oath in Felgahana. Probably butchered that name.
Yeah, I'm sure you did.
That'll be out next year, spring of 2023. So, and that will be on PS4 and Switch. So that's pretty cool. So always like when I see that in the news because I love that series. This one, and again, I think this also highlights how far away it is. Amazon, and we've seen Amazon obviously bumping up a little bit as far as producing games. They're producing that MMO we were just talking about, the blue whatever. They are producing the new Tomb Raider game with Crystal Dynamics. So that's interesting. They're calling it the biggest and most expansive Tomb Raider game ever made. That's all we know. There's no date. I imagine it's a while off. I'm excited for more Tomb Raider. It sounds like, I don't know, like, do we continue the story with Camilla Luddington, or do you think they get a new Tomb Raider chick at this point?
Well, they said that they're recasting her.
Are they recasting? Yeah. That's right. Okay.
So my hope would be
we don't need to do origin
new game, no origin story. Right. Please new trilogy, no origin story. I don't need to know that like my daddy died and I have to go solve his murder in the mansion again. Like I don't need that again. Right. But
I don't either. Whatever. I mean, take your time. Like I'm not in a rush to have a new Tomb Raider. Rather them take their time and make whatever they're making. Make it good. Make it be a good reveal for like either next Game Awards or the one after. You know.
Yeah.
So, final news story. One that Dan and I have been waiting for all year. Probably longer than a year. Final Fantasy 1 through 6 pixel remasters announced for PS4 and Switch.
Fantastic.
Finally, those stupid Steam ports are coming to console as they always should have. Bummed that they're not on the Xbox, but I'm not surprised.
Yeah, it is what it is.
They don't seem to care for Xbox over there. It's fine.
Yeah.
But I'm glad they're announced. It is $75 if you want to buy all 6 in a pack, because I think each one is $15.
That's fair.
Or that collector's edition, I think I shot over
$260.
Like $260.
So let me explain how this happened yesterday.
Yeah.
So like today is the 35th anniversary of Final Fantasy, just in general, which is crazy to think. And then so you knew they were probably going to announce it today, just because like it had been rated recently and people wanted it forever. Okay, fine.
Right.
I was actually having trouble sleeping last night because I hurt my back. And for whatever reason, I checked my phone at like 2 a.m. and saw that like, oh yeah, we announced it for real. And the physical version's up on our site to reserve, which is shitty because that's what Square does. They only just put shit on their site now. Like the 16 collector's edition, which I was able to get one of those. That was a whole 15-minute wait period. But so I was able to get the 1 through 6 remaster thing pre-ordered for PS4, which was good. The Switch version was already out. Like it was like you cannot reserve it anymore. And
that doesn't surprise me.
But this was at 2 a.m.
Yeah.
So now you're on a wish list for it because they'll probably restock it at some point. But
oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I'm excited. Like it's a good one to have physical, just because it's Final Fantasy 1 to 6. I'm excited to play through a couple of those again, like 1, 4, and 6. It'll be interesting to play.
6 is the one I want to play the most.
3 on there.
Yeah.
Because the only other way you could have technically played it over here was on that weird DS version. So it's cool that like the real version of it exists.
It is cool.
Because they even never made that for
and those
Game Boy
those games all have those benefits of those others where you can like speed up.
They have that stuff. They have all the Steam benefits, but what they don't have, and which sucks, is they don't have the like when they remade 1 and 2 for Game Boy Advance, they added an extra dungeon and stuff. It was called Dawn of Souls.
Content?
That content is not in it because they're meant to be true remasters of the originals.
That makes sense.
Oh, okay.
But that's fine. If I want to play that, I've got the Game Boy Advance ones.
Okay. Yeah. Well, that's our final news story for the week. So before we get into the emails, since it is the end of the year, we're going to go through. We're each going to pick our top 5 games of the year. We did this last year as well. The way we do it here, it's a little different. We don't do it on this podcast by, games that necessarily came out this year. So some of us might have stuff on our list that came out a couple of years ago that we're just getting to now. I will also say for me, this list of top 5 games will differ from whatever I do on my YouTube channel for the most part, except for probably the first game. So, Dan, why don't you kick it off?
Okay. Yeah, I'm just going to I'll go reverse order and just kind of say what I liked about each thing the most. And there you go. So again, these are games that we played this year, not necessarily stuff that came out this year. So that's why my number 5 is Persona 5 Strikers. as someone who still hasn't finished Persona 5, I just was really in the mood for a Musou game, and they gave it away for free. So I was like, we're going to give it a shot. And I got immediately hooked and remembered how much I liked all the characters from what I did play at Persona 5.
Yeah.
And just got really hooked into like the story and like the experience and stuff. And that game was just, the style of that game is great. The voice acting, everything about it is great. They should make a sequel to that. I would play that immediately.
It'd be cool. It'd be cool.
Number 4 is a game I talked about today, Midnight Suns. Like, I'm surprised it jumped as high as it did, but like I just enjoyed, as a Marvel person, like I just enjoyed it so much that it was really, I looked forward to playing it. I had trouble stop playing it. Like, it was really good. 3 was Shredder's Revenge, just because to think that we would get a new Turtles game in 2022 that is that good, like is an actual like significant improvement on Turtles in Time, which is what a lot of people would tell you the best one is. Like, I love Turtles in Time, but I don't think I would necessarily want to go back and play that one again now that I've played this one, because it's just so good. Like, there's a story, the level design. You don't have to do it all in one run through. You can play as everybody levels up. Like, it's just good. Number 2, Marvel Snap, a game I still play daily just because it is addicting for a trading card game. I just unlocked, I just got the Doc Ock card, which he's crazy as hell. So I'm excited to have that card. It's just, again, you can play multiple matches in a day. It takes a couple minutes. You still feel like you progress, and like, it's
for sure.
It's not pay to win by any means. Like, different combinations of cards work, and if you play long enough, you'll just get cards. So you don't have to buy anything. And then my number 1 was probably the first full game I finished this year, which was Horizon Forbidden West. I really loved the last one. This one is just that game, but better. It's got flaws for sure. The story falls apart a little bit at the end, but that's to set up and whatever the next one is.
Yeah.
And it's a world full of almost too many things to do. But the best part is you don't really have to do them. So
you don't.
But exploring that world is the most fun part. The combat is fun. It's rewarding. It's not easy taking down big things because you have to know how to take them down, and each one is slightly different. The performance in it is great. It looks unbelievable. Like, the amount of water in this one is just like, wow.
And like swimming underwater.
Swimming is
really,
great.
really cool.
The lighting, everything about it is great.
I should mention as well, because we didn't mention it in the Game Awards. They, for whatever reason, was in that article. They did announce a DLC for April.
Yeah.
It's in like the California area.
Hollywood type stuff.
Important note, only on PS5, which is a weird choice. Maybe there's some sort of technical limitation.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think that's weird anymore.
But that looks fantastic.
Yeah, I'm very excited for that. And then
a reason to boot that back.
They also announced that like weird like online multiplayer one. I don't think I care about that. But
I don't need an online multiplayer.
But yeah, that was my favorite VR, just like game experience of the year, was playing that game. Yeah, and that's it for me.
All right, I'll go next. I did have one honorable mention, which is As Dusk Falls. It unfortunately fell off my list, but I think it's a really good game to give a shot. Playing it has an excellent story that goes in directions that you wouldn't think and tackles some issues that most games would shy away from, but also gives you that option. If that's something that might affect you personally, you can skip that and be just fine. So fantastic game. You just have to get over the wonky animation because it's a really weirdly animated game. Number 5 on my list is going to be God of War Ragnarok. Even with its story shortcomings in the middle, I still really enjoyed my time with God of War Ragnarok. At the end of it, the combat is even better than it was in the last one. Playing as his son Atreus in this one is also fantastic. It adds more dynamics to the game because he's more focused on bow and arrow. So, and obviously Kratos, he gets a new weapon in this game too, but you have the axe and the Blades of Chaos. And then later on you get a spear. I don't think that's really a spoiler. So, but the spear is really good too. So, fantastic game. It's definitely worth your time. Play it on PS5 if you can. Number 4 for me is a game from 2019. We actually talked about earlier in the news, and that's Days Gone, a game that I laughed off for several years. And then for whatever reason this year, I was in the mood for that type of open world. So I decided to give it a try. It has a great PS5 60 frame patch. So that really helps that game. It's a fantastic game. I think it really does also have a good story that is underrated. And the way that it ends, if you get the true ending, it sets it up for what would be a really potentially interesting sequel that we're never going to get. So, which is unfortunate because it has to deal with the outbreak and what really caused the outbreak in that game. And your wife in that game was actually involved.
That's a shame. That's a shame that like a game like that sets something up like that, and just you're never going to get it.
But I enjoyed also, and like it's interesting to think about, like that studio is based in Bend, Oregon, and so the whole area is modeled after where these people live and work. So it looks and plays amazing in terms of like the area you roam in that game. So fantastic game. It's definitely worth your time. That was like my older game of the year that I played this year. Number 3 for me. I'm surprised it's not on your list, Dan, but it sucked my life for a month.
It got bumped.
Arcade Paradise.
It got bumped today. And it was a hard one to bump off because that game.
I loved Arcade Paradise so much. It's one of the best stories in the game this year, and I wouldn't have thought of that going into it.
Did you hear that they got their first like license cabinet, like some other company made for them?
That's cool.
Yeah, it's not like it's an indie company that made a game, but they have licensed cabinets in that game now.
That's cool. Just a fantastic game, fantastic story. One of the best like deeply written stories through, an email exchange between you and somebody else in a game that I thought went deeper than most.
Just everything about it, like even the relationship with like your dad is deep.
Yeah, and like I said, and I said it before, if you look at the game on any of the storefronts and you think it's just an arcade compilation, it is not.
It is not.
Give it a shot, because that's what I thought originally. So give it a shot. It's one of the best games I played this year. Number 2 was going to be my number 1 game, but I think everybody at this point knows what my number 1 game is. Number 2 is Elden Ring. Elden Ring is a tremendous game. If you've played any Dark Souls game, but you wanted it to be bigger and just more exploration, because again, most of the Dark Souls games are pretty linear in your path. This is that game. This is your adult Zelda Breath of the Wild is the easiest way I can describe. If you are, I would even say like the difficulty, because like Zelda Breath of the Wild can get difficult. Like you can get your ass handed to you in Breath of the Wild if you're not careful. So very much this is the adult version of that. It is hard as hell at times. Like I'm not going to beat around the bush on that, but it is a fantastic game. I had so much fun. It took me 2 months. Like that was 2 months I stuck with Elden Ring, but what an incredible experience and journey of a game. Number 1 for me is the $5 game of the year, and that's Vampire Survivors. Like I've been playing this game since it came out of early access on Steam. I heard a bunch of people talking about it. So glad it's on a console now. So glad that there's I can stream it through the Game Pass cloud. It works great there. It's the value there. There's so much depth to this stupid $5 game. It has more depth to it than I think any other game on this list, with maybe the exception of Elden Ring. Just in terms of the characters you can unlock. Like I told you, 20 hours in, I unlocked this like card part of the game where you can get different cards that manipulate how your run's going to go.
That's crazy.
Like, what the fuck? Yeah. Exactly. Now there's $1.79 DLC for this game that adds even more characters and shit. So like, it's an incredible game. I can't. It's my game of the year on my YouTube channel too. So like, if you're listening to this and you watch that stuff, there's your spoiler. Like, no game for me was better than that. So, Matt, what about you?
Man, you know what? Before I get into my list, I just want you to know that I bought that DLC for $1.79, and I got a $1.25 credit as soon as I bought that. I was pissed. Like I know it's only $1.79, but I was like, man, I could have used that. For me, so number 5, I actually just thought about it and I just changed it.
Okay.
That game Unpacking that I actually started playing.
Yeah.
Kind of when I first started with you guys.
Yeah.
So when you started talking about in depth, like I really got kind of gripped into the story of this girl. And I mean, you play as she's like an adolescent to when she's like older and has kids herself. And you don't even get to see her really, and you don't get to meet the kids. But like the fact that you're unpacking her life through each of these like milestone moments with her, kind of grips you anyways. So like I think that for me that was a great way to start. Number 4, I really enjoyed the time I put into Tunic.
It's on my list to play before I do my stuff on my YouTube channel because I really want to finish it.
Dude, so like the art style, it's cool. It's really good. I really enjoy it.
I like the music of that game a lot.
I was just about to say the music is really fantastic. Like I just feel overall like peaceful when I play that. I do need to load it back up, so I do want to get back into it because I do have fun with it. But I really enjoyed that for the most part. For me, number 3 would be Vampire Survivors. That's probably another game I probably put the most time in. And like you said, it was a cheap $5 game when I bought it on my PC, and then now it's on Game Pass, and I'm still playing it through there. So it's kind of like, man, all right. But I mean, the DLC for what you're getting is it's fantastic.
It's fantastic.
Like $1.79 for all these these additional 3 characters and another like more levels, and it's very well done. So I'm actually glad I did like get into it and start playing it. Number 2 for me is Shredder's Revenge. I feel the same way. I feel like it is a great new boot to Turtles in Time. I did have fun playing with it. My kids, I played with my son for the most part with it, and he enjoyed it too. The online, I didn't get much into online playing with everybody.
Yeah,
but I do like the idea behind it and the fact
it actually works pretty well. And like you can just find games to join to jump in at any point and just play. Yeah. It's shocking that it's good, and like people, it reminds me of playing it like in an arcade or something. You're just playing with random people running through a Turtles game. Everybody knows what to do.
Yeah, like you know how exactly, like you jump. The thing, I think I got into one game, and when I did, everybody was using their special. So it was like just
that game can get nuts. Yeah,
yeah, it can.
And I was like, hey, you know what? I'm here for it, and I just kind of go into it too. But I enjoyed it a lot. What I played of it, and I'm glad that it came out this year. I need to go ahead and get the physical copy of it so I can just have it so I know where it's at.
Yeah.
But for me, number 1 is Little Nightmares 2. I absolutely loved the first one when I played through it. So when I found the deluxe copy of the second one, I definitely wanted to get into it. But for me, I love the art style of Little Nightmares 2. And I love the story that developed between the 2 characters. I'm not going to get into it too much, but it kind of comes full circle, and it's just really well done for like a no dialogue based game, you know?
Yeah. Like, there's no dialogue in those
not
games.
at all. And so like I don't know. I absolutely love games like that. The monsters and the characters in it are just so beautiful. So, like, if you do get time, definitely check it out.
It's installed.
I was about to say, it normally runs on sale a lot, too. Like,
I bought it when it was on a sale. Yeah.
Exactly. I got into the first one because I got it for like $4, and I was like, okay, let's just dive into it. But for me, I think Little Nightmares 2 is a fantastic, well-rounded game, and you should definitely give it an opportunity.
All right. Well, that's going to wrap up that. So we'll get to the emails here. Overall, good year for gaming. Let's see. Sure. So our first email comes from Frank from Council Grove, Kansas. He says, "Hi guys, was curious about your thoughts on this. So you think being 2 years in, we would see a price decrease on the Series X or PS5 anytime soon in North America? I know it's less likely with Sony, but maybe Microsoft could really throw down the gauntlet. Thanks." I mean, it's weird because, like, I would tell you normally, like, if in a normal world where we didn't have a pandemic, that I would think that we're at the point where somebody would be dropping the price of their system. But at this point, the demand's still too high. There's no reason when the demand's this high. Right. There's no reason for either of them to drop their price. And the only system that's dropping price is the Series S. So.
Right. Because I think that even though Microsoft really thinks that there's a place for that, like, it's not the one people want. Like, they don't want that version of a console. So
it's not.
It's easier for them to drop that because that system, the whole point of that system is to get you to buy into the Game Pass. That's it. The Sony dropping in price is not going to be until it almost all but that until redesign. It has to, or this redesign comes out, which we'll talk about later. But if any of them do, sure. A Series X might go on sale. But
I could see it at some point.
But it's the PlayStation
demand's too high.
Not when they're raising the price in other parts of the world. Like, there's just no way.
I did finally see a PS5 in the wild at Walmart the other day.
Oh wow!
So they are out there.
I've gone into GameStop at times where I could have just bought one. But,
I see Series X all the time.
Yeah, I see X's now. S's are always there.
Yes,
it's just demand is too high, and they'd much rather keep it at 5 and put a game in it than actually lower the cost of it, even on like a sale. It's going to be probably another year or this redesign before you see anything PlayStation wise that's under 500
for sure. Next email comes from Gil from Cumberland, Virginia. It says, hey all, former GameStop manager here. You guys have said many times on the podcast that the grass is always greener on the other side once leaving GameStop for a job outside of retail. However, on last week's podcast, it was mentioned that both Dan and Kyle worked for a company that wasn't so great. I was curious to know a little more about that and if you found it a worse experience than GameStop. I can tell you while I'm no longer with GameStop, I'm still in a retail manager with a major chain, but I'm looking to get out of retail completely. Any advice there as well? The problem I have with this question is I don't know if I'm assuming he's meaning the place that you and I both worked for a while.
Yeah, I would assume so.
Yeah.
The other place.
Yeah.
So, I would say the easiest way I could say about that place is like, it was like, it wasn't working retail as like I'm behind a counter. It was more of working retail in like a phone environment,
right?
If that makes sense.
Yeah. We did. Kyle and I did the same thing, but in different ways at that place. Basically, I was phone tech support. Kyle was chat tech support. Towards the end, I was doing a lot more chat stuff too. But I will say that, like, was it better or worse? I mean, it wasn't worse. I could say that. Main reason being the pay was far better. Like, for sure. Especially for Kyle, but it was even more. I even made more working there than I did at GameStop after like a year. So it was that was step number 1. I mean, step number 2 is Kyle opted to work Saturdays, but it was.
I work Saturdays and Sundays,
right? But it wasn't required to do so.
No.
So for the first time, I had Monday through Friday. Didn't have to worry about working Saturday or Sunday. That's a big plus, especially when you've got kids. So there was that part of it. We dealt with the same kind of shit from bosses. It was the same kind of thing where like it would rotate who was in charge every so often. By the time Kyle and I left, the guy who was actually in charge of our department was actually a pretty cool guy who would listen to you and work with you to find solutions on stuff. Our actual supervisor was a garbage person.
He's garbage.
Yeah.
Who's still there? Sadly.
Who's probably still there because it's the only thing he can ever amount to in his life.
Exactly.
Would I say it was worse than GameStop? No.
No.
Was
I
it
would
better?
say
it was different.
It was different, but my one argument was I think the customer base was worse.
Yeah, but you didn't have to see him face to face.
That helped. Right. I didn't have to see them face to face, and because I was in chat, I didn't have to hear them.
Yeah, chatting was always great because it was just like you could just let them stew for a couple minutes and then come back with the same thing you told them 5 minutes ago.
Well, we're not gonna be able to do that for you. But yeah, it's just I don't know. Like I did it for a while, and then I had an opportunity to get out and do something that I thought was going to be better, and to be honest, it was for a while, and then it turned into not being better, and then I had to get out of that. Now, obviously, I work a job that I very much like. Obviously, Matt works there too. We talked about it last time.
Yep,
we both like it.
I enjoy what I do.
You like what you're doing now.
Yeah, I mean, now granted, I'm not going to lie and say that like I had to I work for family, but I work, but what I do is important because. Somebody has to do what I do, and nobody was doing it for a couple of years. And, my family member said that they were looking for somebody to do it. And I told them like, I can do that pretty easy. And, just cause it doesn't necessarily fit into skill sets I've had before, but it's adjacent to stuff I've done. I've run, basically when at that place, Kyle and I worked, we basically had to teach ourselves tech support. There was no training on the products we had. It was minimal at
best. Here's a new product. Here's 6 pages of stuff.
You had to ask to get time with units to even try them out. And it being tech support, you were on the phone. I was told I got to solve this person's problem in 11 minutes or I get in trouble. And sometimes that would be a 4-hour call because of how bad things have been. So, yeah, I mean, I am happier where I am now, but that doesn't mean that like I'm not looking. But I mean, Kyle can talk to this more than I can in terms of like having to look for a new job in terms of like best ways to do it. But
yeah, like for me, I would say like I was done with retail. You know, when I left GameStop, that was the big thing for me. It was like, I don't want to do retail anymore. I've done it for, at that point, 10, 12 years between various retail jobs. So I was just done with that portion of it. And again, like, as I've said before, like your skill set that you do at GameStop can translate really easy to stuff on the other side.
Mm-hmm.
You know, dealing with stuff like, especially like phone tech support or chat tech support, you can easily get in the door at one of those places, especially if you were a key holder at a GameStop. So very easy to do.
Oh, yeah. If you were a manager at a GameStop, like on my resume, management experience, sourced and led a team, you know, all the, like everything about it, because when you're a manager at a GameStop, like you do everything, you know?
Yeah.
I did inventory. I did hiring. I did general customer service. I did cleaning. I did maintenance work, for Christ's sake, because I'd have to repair stuff in the store, like broken drawers.
Have to do any of the banking.
Yeah. Tech stuff,
you know,
banking.
Funds, exactly.
The opening, closing by yourself, responsible for a store that makes over $1 million. Like, you know, and you know, while I have 4 or 5 people on my team, so your skills as a GameStop manager, especially, I think, translate quite well to any kind of like what you guys do, where it's like phone support. As long as you're a quick learner, you can do almost anything.
Yeah. I don't think I really have more to add to that. So, but yeah. I think that's something
you're worth more than what GameStop thinks of you, and your skills will translate to multiple other fields.
And the other thing I'll say is, ever since I've left GameStop, every job I have had since, the money I earn has only gone up.
Yes.
So because it's a lot easier on the other side. Like what you earn at GameStop is peanuts in comparison to what you're going to earn. I think even Dan would, me more than you, Dan, but
for you. Yeah, for sure.
Again, that wasn't your fault.
No. I couldn't do anything about it.
You could do anything
I would say I was definitely in the top half of managers in my district.
For sure.
And the only reason I wasn't worth more is because I started as an interim one for a lady who quit the day conference started. So when she quit, they were like, well, you're just the manager now. And I didn't really have a chance to like renegotiate. It just kind of became what it was.
Yeah.
So that kind of sucked, but luckily our store did well enough where I got raises a couple times, which is not a thing anymore. So don't worry about that.
All right. Our next email comes from Adam from Redacted. So you know what that means. Hi, guys. Soon to be former GameStop manager here. I was just given the sad news that the store I work for will be shutting its doors at the end of the year, and I'm in quite a bind. I've let most of my staff know, and while I've had to share the news with them, 2 of my key holders quit on the spot, citing that they didn't want to stick around to clean up, and they also knew that they wouldn't find positions at other nearby stores since none are available. I'm now stuck with a staff of just myself and 3 GAs. I've been offered to work at a nearby store as the manager once this store closes, or I can take severance and find something else. I will say the nearby store manager wouldn't be fired. They're actually stepping down after the holidays. So I'm torn between if I should stay, knowing that I have to get through this crappy store closing and I'll be working nonstop, or if I should take the severance and look elsewhere. I heard Dan's story last week about taking severance, so I wanted to look for any advice you could give me on this. Thanks.
Okay.
I know what Dan's going to say, but this is your question, bud.
For me, the choice was easier because the store I would have had to take over was much farther away, and it was a choice between that or maximum severance. And I took it as a sign saying, let's just take maximum severance and we'll figure it out. Honestly, that's what I would suggest to you. And the thing about like the store closing part of it isn't actually that bad, because realistically, you're just packing stuff up and shipping it out and packing stuff up and shipping it out. And I knew I wasn't coming back, so I really didn't give a damn about customers or selling anything or trying to talk people into this or that or putting up with people's bullshit. It's like, this store is closing. Like, what do you want from me? I've had to do that twice. I did that at a Game Crazy and a GameStop where I went through a closing period. Yeah. It's actually not that bad. The last week we were there, it was literally just literally cleaning up and throwing stuff away. No customers were in there. We weren't open. We just had music on. We got food. We tore stuff down. Like, obviously telling people and then they quit because they don't want to help you close the store. That's kind of dumb on their part, because
it is, because it's easy.
It's easy. It's easier because there are no obligation. Like, what are they going to do? Fire you? Whereas you can still get paid to close the store and look for a job at the same time.
Yeah.
Like, and that's what this guy can do too, is say like, hey, I'm really thinking I'm going to take the severance. Look for a job now. Get your resume put together now. Post it everywhere now. I mean, Kyle, you went through that process of posting resumes. You got contacted like right away, pretty much, right?
I'll say this. When I left GameStop to go work at the job that I worked at for only 2 weeks and then got let go, that was a different situation.
No, that was something else.
Yeah. That was a bad place. But it took me a while before I got where I got. And that was just, I don't think I was doing my resumes right. And I didn't have everything that I needed at that point. This time now, when I quit the job that I did have that was getting really bad, I was only down and out for 2 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
And I went on not Job Finder, what is it? The one that starts with an I.
Indeed. Yeah.
And I just blasted Indeed for like a week straight. I just, everywhere I could, anything that sounded like, and again, I was looking for work from home, but pretty much anything like I just blasted those there. And then when I did all of that, it ended up like I think I had 2 or 3 interviews, and then I pretty much got a job pretty fast. And the unfortunate part was then I had to wait an entire month until it started.
Right.
So, but yeah.
And that'll be the downside of some of that kind of stuff. But again, if you're going to take your severance, that will help.
Yeah, for sure.
Mine was enough to live off of for a couple months, but I ended up getting a job right away thanks to Kyle.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just like you have to really kind of come to grips with yourself and ask yourself if it's worth it to move on. Like, I would ask myself why this other manager's stepping down. Like, is this store bad? Is this?
And I mean, maybe you have a rapport with him,
right?
Like, if it's like,
like, hey man, tell me what's going on.
Yeah, you might already know, and maybe that's an aspect of it. But the other thing I would tell you too is like you're probably not working at night, when you're cleaning up that store. Like, just use that time to send out some applications on Indeed or something.
Yeah, we were literally just taking stuff off the wall, packing it up, shipping it, packing it up, shipping it, dumping the boxes by the front door, and then throwing the shelves out. We ended up having to get like a junk hauling company to come get all of the stuff just because there was like the amount of crap that built up in that store over 30 years was unbelievable. But you find some cool stuff. Sure. But
for sure.
And the other thing too is if you have a significant other, talk it over with them. If the severance feels right, it's probably right. And you just get a resume together and just shove it to everyone. Doesn't matter.
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
Yep.
That's what I did. So our next email comes from Will from Dayton, Ohio. He says, "Hey guys, thanks ahead of time if you're reading my email. I'm curious if you guys believe this very strong rumor about this PS5 with a detachable disk drive. And if so, what do you think about it? Personally, I think it's BS that they would have to expect someone who wants this machine to buy it and have to purchase this disk drive separately. Do you think this model will actually be worth it and maybe looks somewhat better than the stock current PS5 model? Thanks again." I mean, I think the current PS5 model looks like shit.
I mean,
we all know
everyone
that.
does.
Everyone does. It depends on the cost when it comes out for me.
The first thing is like it seems real. Like it has to be real at this point.
It seems
devs
real now,
have it, I guess, and it's real. I mean,
it's basically their way of just making one SKU for the system.
Yeah, I'm gonna say I could see a world where the revision of the PS5 is this is it, and if you want a disk drive, buy this. Because I mean, these days disk drives are only really made for installing stuff. If you don't want to like download every game, and because some places have download caps on things where you get charged if you go over stuff. That's still real. It's only going to get worse
for not having that.
Yeah, but it's only going to get worse as time goes on because people are downloading more stuff. But part of me thinks it's dumb, and part of me thinks I get it, just because for them it's easier. We don't have to.
Easier.
There's no digital unit.
It's one SKU with an accessory now. Yeah,
and
so. The question is, how long do they making those disk drives? Like, is that going to be available forever?
That's the other part. Is
That's what scares
this
me.
becoming a thing and disk drives becoming an optional device effectively says we don't have to make physical games anymore. So, and the first people that would get on that would be Sony. They would stop making physical stuff because they'd be like, look, the system out of the box doesn't have a disk drive, so why would we make disks?
Exactly.
So it's tough because I don't want it to go that way. But
I don't want it to go that way either. I need to see what it looks like, and my biggest thing is cost. Like, do we eliminate some cost from it?
Yeah.
Is this where the price cut comes?
It would have to be at least 100 less for it to be even.
So is the system 300 and the disk drive is another 100?
No,
I would probably like 350 and 100. But then again, am I paying $100 for a disk drive at this point? The hidden boost to this is if your disk drive ever dies, it's at least replaceable.
Yeah, exactly. That's the one good thing about it.
Because that'll happen to every console. But but then you'd have to, have a way to get another one. And how easy are these things going to be to find? For every 10 systems they make, are they going to make one disk drive?
The most recent rumor I read was that it's going to be announced in January. That was the most recent thing I saw.
I think so.
Which seems about time.
That's 2 years later. It's the redesign. Yeah. We could, easily make the system smaller.
And this is obviously just a redesign. This isn't going to have more powers on a Pro.
It's not a Pro. It's just PS5 2.0 where we.
But also, do you think is this a test for them to go? Well, maybe the Pro doesn't have a disk drive. I don't know.
Good.
It depends. So yeah, I know. No, I don't want it to go that way either. But at some point, it's going to. Yeah, I don't know. It's going to be very interesting to see. I believe it's real.
It's definitely
There's too much evidence.
Real.
There's too much evidence to support it. I will take a wait and see approach, but I feel like by the end of January we're going to be talking more about this. So, because I think they're going to show it off pretty soon.
Yeah.
All right. Our next email comes from Dennis from San Diego, California. He says, "Hi guys, was curious if any of you have a favorite holiday themed video game that you will crack open and replay each year. Thanks." I thought about this, like, I don't really think, like, there's not a lot of, like, holiday themed games. The only one I can think of recently, and I did replay it, like, one other holiday, but I haven't since, is Dead Rising 4. Yeah. Because that one's set around Christmas. Not a bad game. Not the best Dead Rising game, but it's not a bad game. Pretty solid Christmas game for sure. But that's kind of it. Like I was trying to think, like, I'm sure there's something else that's major that I'm not thinking of, but
I don't really have
really
a holiday themed game that I play.
Holiday movies for sure.
I do tend, like, there's a couple games that I try to play every year or so. And like, I was just thinking to myself the other day, it's like, man, I really feel like I should probably play Link's Awakening again, especially now that I have the Switch version. Like that's, hot take, but that is my favorite Zelda game. I don't care, like even just the Game Boy version. Like I've played through that game probably 10 times, and I'm not a speedrunner guy who just sits here and plays it every day. It's just I play it every so often. But for whatever reason, I just thought the other day, it's like, you know what, I should go back and play Link's Awakening DX on my Pocket, because that'll probably look incredible on there. And I haven't really done that, so that would probably be one, just because it's a game I replay all the time, and it's generally around this time of year, just because I have memories of getting it for Christmas. But like theme games, I don't think there's one. I'm not a big horror game guy. There's a couple I like, but I tend to stay away from like the more brutal ones. So there's not really like Halloween things I do.
Yeah, like I would say for like holiday theme, like I don't really have like Christmas, I don't really have anything, but like I will replay the original Resident Evil every year. Like I do that every year, sometimes more than once. That's probably the biggest one. Another one that the other couple ones I have, they're not every year, they're every couple years. I will do a run of Bully. It's one of my favorite games of all time. And I will do a run almost every year. I do a run of Symphony of the Night. And then I'd say every like 2 years I will do a run of Final Fantasy VII, like the PS1, not the remake, but the PS1 version. Now there's that great PS4 version, where you can speed up and slow down. That makes that run go a lot faster. And it's a great way to play it. But I do that like every 2 years or so. Because it gets to that point where I'm like, I really feel like playing Final Fantasy VII again. So I'll do that with like that game. Maybe once every while I'll run through Super Mario World.
Yeah, I do that every so often.
There's multiple ways to play that really easily now. So Switch,
sure.
You can play it there.
I haven't played Earthbound in a long time. I get to go back to Final Fantasy IV now again, which is nice.
Yeah,
I'm actually I've decided I'm just gonna play through all 6 of those games in order. Like, I just take on that task.
The Final Fantasy Pixel ones?
Yeah,
you should.
I'm just gonna do it.
Should. The other one that I'll say, like, if I ever want to do a stream for the channel and I can't think of a game to play, I will just fuck around with the original Dead Rising.
Yep.
So I've played through that many times. That's my favorite one. That's easily the one that I love running through the most. Because I love them all for that. But like holiday themed, Halloween time, I will try to play horror games because that's my favorite genre of game. But they're not always the same ones every year, obviously. Yeah. With the exception Resident Evil. But Resident Evil, it's not even Halloween. Like usually it's like around February, March. And before we had the easy, like you could play that everywhere, I was literally cracking down a GameCube and playing it that way. So I would do that every year. I would bring out the GameCube, bring out the memory card. Me and my buddy we'd just switch off. Like if one of us died or something, we just run through it. So,
yeah.
Then I got to the point where we're doing speed runs. So, but yeah, that would probably be my answer. So, but great question. Or Matt, go ahead. I forgot. I totally forgot about you.
Anything.
I think you did.
Nope, not a fucking thing.
Is there anything you replay every so often? There's got to be like one game you've played multiple times.
If I can think of one off the top of my head that I do enjoy going back to, I think it would be the trilogy of Onimusha.
Okay, that's cool.
I think that's really it. But like, there's no holiday themed game. Like, there's nothing I in
hard.
my need of playing games that I have to go back and play. So I think,
for sure.
I think for me, it's just because I like that whole trilogy in itself. And I think that at points I'm like, you know what? I feel a little froggy. I think we can play this, even with its messed up sticks and how the fuck you run around and shit. I was like, yeah, we can do that.
The one other one I'll add, because I do it every year. And now that the remasters of it are out, I'll do that again next year. It's why I didn't get all the achievements in them this year, because I know I'll be playing it again. Mass Effect Trilogy. I run through that every year.
Oh.
It's mostly because I get the itch to play the first one, because that's my favorite one of the 3.
Right.
But then after I play the first one, I'm like, let's just do 2. Let's just finish it, So that's what happens every time.
Yeah.
So, and that's the reason, like, because when I finished them, I was like, I should run through like the hardest difficulty. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to be playing this again next year. I'll just wait and do it then. So it's pointless for me to just do all that now. So. Yeah. That'll probably be in the spring. Whenever there's a lull in games, I'll usually it's never like a specific time of year. It's usually when it's like, okay, there's nothing coming out for like 6 weeks. I can run through 3 Mass Effect games.
Yeah.
So that would be the other one. And I've been doing that since the 3rd one came out. So I did that when they were backwards compatible on the Xbox One. And then now these remasters are great. So, and I should plug real quick. That's on Plus this month. You can get that trilogy if you have PlayStation Plus. That's a great plus get. So, all right, let's see our final email. This is an interesting one. This one came through today, the time of this recording. Comes from Craig from Bakersfield, Missouri. He says, "Hey guys, absolutely love the podcast. I have a question. I'm curious how you will all answer. What is a video game that you really love that was critically panned?"
Ooh. Man, I wish I had more time to think about this.
I know. It's a good one. I will tell you, although I will say I recently replayed through this game. My opinion on parts of it have changed a little bit, but I still do not think it's as bad as the critics gave it. That's Resident Evil 6. I still think the first 2 campaigns are fantastic.
They're pretty good.
But when you get to the 3rd part, it falls apart when you're playing as Jake, Wesker's son, and Sherry. It starts to fall apart, and then they added later on the ability, instead of unlocking it, they put it in that you can do the whole part with Ada. That campaign, if you play that now, they forced co-op into it now. It's terrible.
Yeah, I remember
it wasn't meant to be that way. Yeah, it doesn't work very well. That's going to be one of my answers. Another one, a huge one for me. It wasn't like 100% critically panned, but it did not get the high reviews that I would give it. Like, this to me is like a top 10 of the generation game. The first Lords of Shadow. I adore that game. I adore that game. A very special game for me when it came out. Sequel was not nearly as good, but I love that game. A lot of critics just called it a God of War clone. I thought it was better than God of War, but I love Castlevania. So love that game. Like the twist at the end. That's pretty known. That's 12 years now. So people know what the twist of that game is. That would be another one for me.
Yeah,
what do you got?
Oh, Dan? Man, I'm trying to like think of like games that I really like that like people just don't like. One of them is, and you agree with me, that Murdered Soul Suspect game. Like,
yeah, but I like that too.
I love that. I love that game, but people, it was, I know what the problems are, and people did not like it, and that studio I think shut down shortly after.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember the name of that, but it didn't sell well at all.
The other games I really like that never really get a high score, at least in America.
I have the GameStop window poster. We got a window poster for that game. Remember that?
Yeah, I do. That was a big deal, and they wanted us to get like reserves for it, and nobody bought it except me and you. Another like a series of games I really like that that people just don't know about or don't care is all the Disaster Report games. Like they never get great ratings just because I
don't dislike those, but they don't get good reviews.
They're slow and like they're puzzle games at the core, and but there's something about them I really like in terms of just like this story of how they make these little stories work like through disasters that these people have to survive through. Man, I'm trying to think of like other stuff I liked that people did not like.
A more recent one I'll throw up there. I mean, obviously it has an audience because it's getting a sequel now, but like when Death Stranding came out, critics did not like Death Stranding. Mm-hmm. It was so all over the place. I love that game. So like for me, that was, if Control hadn't come out that year, that would have been my game of the year. But Control, I just was a better game overall. But
too good.
I would put Death Stranding there because there are a lot of people that really hate it. So, and I didn't get the hate on it at all.
A game that I really enjoyed that I know a lot of people I think weren't big fans of, Max Payne 3.
Yeah, okay. I don't think that would be like that popular.
I like that game a lot, but yeah.
I think Dead to Rights was another one of those kind of games I like that was kind of like that, where not too many people seem to.
I think people disliked it because it was a Max Payne ripoff.
Yeah, but I thought it was good.
I thought it was good. That was the one that you had the dog. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Max Payne 3 is really good, but yeah, I remember when it came out, there were critics that didn't like it. They thought it was too bleak. Yeah. With all his R&R in that game.
A little bit.
A lot of drinking and taking drugs.
Yeah.
I love the game from the beginning. I think that at the end of that game is fucking great.
I agree.
I have another great one that is The Bouncer.
Okay.
I fucking love The Bouncer. Like, I don't care what anybody like. That game is great. It's 20 years old at this point, and it still looks good for a PS2 game.
It does.
It's just a fun. It's a beat 'em up game. It's just 3D and like with a weird ass square story and a guy who's like part dragon.
Let's do it.
Where's The Bouncer 2? Get it out here. That was a great one. I really really love that game.
That's a good one.
Most people don't. I'm looking through just like my PS2 games because that's where I played like a lot of like garbage stuff.
There's a lot of games in that era that were critically panned.
Yeah, that I actually enjoyed. What else was? I don't know. Like I'm trying to think of like RPGs or stuff I liked.
I remember. So I have to say this, and I'm just looking at it now. When I was younger, I remember Driver. People didn't like.
Which one though? The original?
Yeah, like the original.
Okay.
One.
I think the original one got pretty decent reviews. The second one I know did. And the third one was panned.
Yeah, for sure.
I don't know. If
second one you could get out of the car.
Yeah. Another game that I know some critics liked, but I don't think people overall really got as into it as I did was LA Noire, just because.
Yeah.
I
liked LA Noire.
I knew what that game was before I played it. But I remember when we were getting people hyped for it and like getting reserves for it, I was constantly explaining to people like, this is not Grand Theft Auto.
It's not Grand Theft Auto.
You cannot do what you want to do. This is a story-based game made by those people, and you're a cop. And you're puzzle solving, and like there will be like shootouts and stuff, but you can't just walk up to someone in the street and shoot them. So I think that turned a lot of people off from that game. For sure. But I was in love with that game. Really I thought it was like when I played it immediately, like nonstop. You finish a case and be like, let's just start the next one and see what happens. Yeah. And that game again, that's not a game where it kind of falls apart towards the end, just because all of the good stuff in that game is like the first half of it, and then it kind of has to wrap up the rest of it. But that's a fantastic game. I'm really sad we never got the proposed like sequel prequel. Remember they were talking about that for a while.
Yeah,
it's supposed to be like 1920s China with like the same kind of tech and stuff. And I was
that was way ahead of its time.
Oh my god! When you have an entire mini game in that game based on like
half
reading
the
people's
cast that
faces,
game was from Mad Men.
I know. But like the whole point of that game was to read people's faces.
Yeah.
So
that's a good one too. You know, like I remember.
If I think of any more, I'll try to remember them for next time when we do this.
That's that's a really good question.
And you know what? I would actually like it for people to email us games they loved.
It's a good idea too.
That critics hate, because
I'll also throw in there, because I mentioned earlier, Dead Rising 4. Critics didn't really care for it. They kind of they definitely panned 3, and I think
I love 3.
3 is good, but I think it deserves some of the criticism because there was no mall; it was just a town.
Yeah, but
4 brought the mall back, but I thought the mall was good.
But 3, you and I had a blast because like we didn't have to hang out near each other. Like we were just playing.
No,
Dead
that was
Rising.
the first one where it's like you can be on the other side of the map.
Yeah, so like we had a blast playing through. That game definitely worked better as a co-op experience.
Mm-hmm.
But it was definitely panned because it wasn't like the first 2. But I thought that was okay when we played it. And then 4
I did too.
4 is a little bit too much like the first 2 with some stuff removed, but it's still fun.
Yeah, I mean, again, the main reason people pan that game is because the original voice actor didn't come back to play Frank.
He looks different. It's all
he looks different,
kind of wacky, but
I enjoy it. I enjoy it.
It's a good
what
game.
It is. So
but
I think it's good.
I would still want to see a reboot. Listeners, please email in your. It doesn't have to be a super long email. You can just be like, hey man, I really like this game, and I know people hate it, but this is why I love it. I would love to know. That kind of stuff always fascinates me because I love it when people like, quote unquote bad games. Like it's just fun.
Exactly. For sure. But that's going to wrap it up for not only this edition, I guess for the year of 2022. So we will be back mid-January of 2020.
Yeah, we're going to take basically next week's shows off, and then we'll be back 2 weeks after.
We're just saying, in reality, it's literally just we're not doing a show for 1 week, basically.
I just wanted to say really quick as we wrap it up that like I'm appreciative to everybody who listens. Like Kyle and I, and and Matt to a lesser extent, we've been doing this for over a year now, just as kind of like a fun project. And the fact that people listen to it and email to us is incredible to me.
Sure. Yeah.
And I love every one of you. I would also like I asked before, like email us games you love that nobody does. I would like to get stories from people who like work at GameStop or worked retail anywhere else, just like weird customer stories you've had. And like we can read them aloud and share them with everybody else. Like I would like to have like a community aspect of like the stupid customer you had to deal with, or I can't believe this happened, because I love reading that kind of stuff, just because we've all been through similar experiences. So it's always nice to like hear it.
I got one real quick before we end.
Sure.
Yeah.
So I used to work at a Subway, and I remember specifically this one lady came in and I made her a whole sandwich, and at the end, you're like salt, pepper, oil, vinegar.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember this lady made me like douse her sandwich for a good minute in like oil and vinegar, the whole thing. And I didn't say anything. Like I just kept looking at her and just kept squirting the bottle. And I was like, "Are we done?" And she was like, "Yeah, that sounds good." And I was like, "Cool." And I remember wrapping it up and watching her.
It's just
and she walks to the table and she unwraps it and takes her first bite and comes back up to the counter
and wants more.
There's too much oil in it.
Oh, come on.
And I was like,
lady, the whole point of this place is you watch me make your sandwich.
Yeah.
And I will pause and look at you at a certain point.
Yeah, that was probably like one of my worst ones. I have some other ones from Subway that were fantastically done. So if you guys want to hear random Subway stories,
hell yeah.
It's like I ordered Jersey Mike's the other day and I forgot to mark on there like do not put the oil and the vinegar on there, and they just soaked.
Well, that place is like that's the point.
That's the point. And like I don't like, I love Jersey Mike's. I cannot stand the oil.
Oh, I love oil and vinegar, but like I don't want it to be dripping when I eat the sandwich.
Well, it's like I was watching a commercial for the other day. It's literally in slow motion. It seems like for 2 minutes you're just dousing it with that shit. And I'm like, I can't do it, man. Like that's
good.
Yeah, for sure.
All right. But yeah, please send, as always, send your emails into podcast572@gmail.com. I'm not going to say overload us, but we'll probably have extra emails, as we go into 2023, since we're off for, an episode here.
Sure.
So, but again, thanks for sticking with us through 2022. And we look forward to spending 2023 with you all.
Take care.
Have a good one. And thanks for listening.